We're here, I think.
Yeah, I think we live. How you doing
We're
tonight, Charlie?
live. We're good. Hey, everyone. Son of one.
Yep,
I got
Mr.
my
Ed.
cheat sheet
Or
out
well, not
here.
Mr. Ed. It is Mr. Ed, but it's not the Mr. Ed.
Yeah, okay. Well, I see you made it back down from Sevierville. How
That
did
was
that
a
trip go?
long. Oh, that was a long drive back. I'd planned on leaving between 4 and 5 o'clock that morning, that Sunday morning, coming back. Yeah, but it was 6 o'clock when we pulled out. It was
In the
11
morning?
in the morning, and it was
Okay.
11:54 at night when we got home.
We
But I
left.
mean, we made a little stop in Chattanooga, done a few things there, ate. But yeah, that was a long ride back.
Yeah, we left. I guess we got up, got a little bit of breakfast, got on the road about, I'll say 10 minutes after 8. And I pulled into my house at 6 o'clock and made a couple pit stops and, had to get gas a couple times and that kind of stuff. It wasn't too bad. It was raining when we left Sevierville, but, uh, by the time we got, I would say within 20 miles of Bristol, it was clearing out. And by the time we got just north of Bristol into Virginia, it was dry roads from there on for us.
Oh, that's good.
I
It wasn't
know.
really raining on us when we left, but by the time we got to Chattanooga, it was coming down pretty hard. And then we went and done Lookout Mountain, Rock City. So we were walking through there as it was raining on us. And
Yeah.
Renee got soaking wet.
Hmm. Well, we got Steve there, and we got Phil from 33 Mile Bees, and we have Wildwood. We got Grayson and all that. But I had a great time at Hive Life this year. My biggest thing was we got to meet everybody here on the stream, like Phil from 33 Mile. We got Grayson. And let's see, I think Phil was there. Was Phil there from Son of One? I'm not no.
Ed, son of one, no, he wasn't there.
No, okay. I know Flower Street, Brian was there, and got a little bit of a video. I'll be having some more videos coming out here in the next few days. I've been working on. I did the one about the honey, and I've got one of two about the Hive Life Convention itself. Something that I didn't really do was make any videos, or I should have made some shorts about the presentations when they were live and all that stuff. Hey, Phil.
Ed.
What?
I was saying there's
Ed.
Phil and
Okay.
Ed down there.
I got. Honestly, folks, I have to write all. It's on this sheet. You can't see it, but I actually have to write everybody's names down in order to keep track of everybody.
It'll take a little while. You get used to them.
There's
It's kind of like
James.
meeting somebody for the first time. You got to say their name a few times before you learn it.
Yeah. And all that. But there's Michael. So anyway, that's what's happening here with us. And it's been busy here at the mill after getting back from work. And then plus doing some as president of my local club, doing a lot of different things. Wednesday night was our meeting, and Tuesday night I guess it was Monday night, we had an interview for a young beekeeper. We give out hives to young beekeeper grants and stuff. So that's a good thing. There's Gunline.
Yeah,
Tim. Yeah, I had to look at my sheet cheater and say who it is. Hey, Sharon.
I seen Sharon earlier, I talked with Sharon earlier today. We was on Black Mountain Honeys live this morning.
Yeah, I seen something on that. What was that post about?
He was just doing a live kind of Q&A, people asking questions, answering, and just general talk. It was a pretty good little live.
DCB's and Phil made a short about me dancing there.
Yeah, I actually I had something pulled up on a screen over here. I was gonna see if I could embarrass you with. While they're talking about that, I'll go ahead and pull it up. It's only like
Paul.
It's a little 28-second clip.
28 seconds, that long?
Oh yeah, but we can give Charlie heck on it, but he done a good job. Here we go. And catching a little air there.
Yeah.
Here comes Frederick Dunn wondering what you doing. You're doing a good job out there, Charlie.
Yeah, well, thank you. I enjoy dancing. We go out to, or at least I go out to a lot of bluegrass shows, and in my area, bluegrass is pretty heavy as far as bands and stuff to play. Actually, there's a band playing tonight, and up at a VFW locally, and um, and I've been into bluegrass music for quite a few years. Used to be a booking agent for one of the bands,
Okay.
and
I
all that.
had an uncle that used to play a bunch of it. If an instrument had strings on it, he could play it.
Yeah, I wasn't quite. I mean, I could play a little bit of guitar and I can play a little bit of banjo, but it's hasn't been quite a long time since I picked it up.
Mhm.
So
The only
anyway,
thing I
well,
could ever play as far as strings, I could play Black Sabbath's Iron Man on a guitar, and that was it. And that'd been 20 years ago.
yeah. So all right. Well, I guess we might as well just go ahead and drop the link. Let me see if I can figure out how to do all that. Go down here to the invite. We do the copy. Now we do that on the. Which one do we do that on?
Yeah, once you hit copy, hit that X in that little window
Yeah,
that
but on
popped
my
up
on YouTube side or on this side?
on
Stream
StreamYard side.
stream chart. Paste. Click. And there we
Hey,
are.
you got it. And then, yeah, go to your laptop and pin it.
Yeah, I'm trying to pin message. And there it is. We got it.
You're going to be a pro before long.
I'm getting used to it, everybody. Anybody wants to come on in, come on in. Love to chat.
You got
With
anything
y'all.
planned this weekend?
Um, I would like to go out into my hives and do oxalic acid vapor Sunday. It says it's going to be around 45 degrees. I mean, that was one thing coming out of Hive Life. The farther north I got, the colder it got, and the colder it got, and all that. It dropped down. It was like 40 to 30, 37 to 40 degrees and all that. And so, it's still cold. It's been raining here the last couple of days. And it yeah, today it got the rain is gone, but now we have the wind to deal with, and it's just been chilly and raw for a lot of it and everything. But
We didn't get, I think we have 47 right now. We're supposed to get down to 32 tonight, which is actually pretty cool for us.
yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Now, tomorrow, I got something that I need to do that I guess some people, I guess, would know about it. Some don't, but whether you know about it or not is something you probably don't want to have to ever do. But I don't know if you've ever heard of telling the bees. It's an old, basically European tradition. They believe the bees are part of the family. So any major events in the family, whether it's a birth, a marriage, a death, anything, you tell the bees.
Oh, really?
And when a beekeeper dies, basically his bees can't go into mourning until they're notified of the death. And they say if you don't notify the bees of the death, that you can pay a penalty as far as the bees will not produce honey. They may abscond from the hive or they may even die.
Hmm.
Well, we have a local beekeeper here. He's been passed away a little while, but I was contacted by the commercial apiary. His wife wants to have them taken somewhere.
Yeah.
So I got to go
I
over there
see.
tomorrow and do that.
Well, Nancy's in the chat here tonight. Nancy Tasker from Pennsylvania
I met
lives
her in
about.
Hive Life.
Yep, she was helping out the Dirt Rooster selling product and all. And Nancy, if you want to stop in, and here we got somebody coming in, Brad. Hi, Brad from Faith Apiaries.
How you doing?
Howdy.
Hey.
Doing well.
Yeah, it looked like it looked cold up there. There's a lot of snow, huh?
So, what's your weather? What's the temperature up there in Fahrenheit or Celsius at this time?
It's quite nice. -8 C. I'm gonna say that's probably
17 and a half Fahrenheit.
17. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's not that cold. It's been really nice this week.
jacket weather, right?
Almost t-shirt weather.
Yeah, I know that James here, we were standing around freezing, or at least I was, and outside one of the restaurants one night, and he was like, "Oh, this is great weather. It's 55 degrees Fahrenheit at the time, and all that." So,
Yeah.
so you've
Well,
been.
we've
I
got our
seen
winter
you.
blood, so it's pretty thick.
Yeah, I see you've been making some bee. What was it? You were doing entrance
See the
reducers for
reducers?
something. Yeah, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And all.
Just a fun thing for the bee club.
Okay. That
No,
wasn't
they
for
flew
your
off the table. They all went.
really?
No, that was for the bee club meeting on Tuesday.
Okay.
And they all disappeared. I made 100 of them. They all disappeared.
Was that like a door prize type of thing, or was that just a freebie?
Not
type
really.
thing?
Just freebie, just a free for all. I
Yeah.
like to do little things like that. I appreciate that club so much, and I've got the wood shop, and I've been dying to do something. So reducers are a pretty lightweight thing to do. So
Mhm.
I was able to put those together.
Now you have, what is it, around 300 hives? I think it is
About 150.
150 of them. And now with your bee club, is that a lot of hobby beekeepers? I guess you would say.
Yes, it's primarily hobby. There's quite a number of sideliners and a couple of us commercial guys in there too, but not real big commercial.
Right.
I have to qualify that. I use commercial in the context of our provincial laws, basically. I'll say, because there's a provincial law that distinguishes commercial in Manitoba as 50 colonies or more, which I know
Oh,
isn't
really?
very big, but that's just what it is. So that's what I call commercial.
Okay. And then what would they consider a sideliner then? Or do they have that
Well,
definition?
yeah, see, that's kind of the thing. There's no definition. There's no provincial definition. It only defines not commercial or commercial, and that really is because there's a provincial law that states that if you are commercial, by law, you need to be a member of the Manitoba Beekeepers Association and pay dues there,
Really?
because that's a producer board. And so the producer board, well, what it does for us is it allows us to work collectively as we relate to the provincial and federal governments. So the provincial government doesn't want to hear every beekeeper standing at the door, with their concerns. What they want to do is they want to talk to an association. So
Right.
then this kind of goes back a long way. This goes back many decades, and many producer boards were formed back in the day. And the Manitoba Beekeepers Association, it used to be called the Manitoba Honey Producers Association, I think,
Right.
back in the day, and then it was changed to Beekeepers. And personally, I think it should be called the Manitoba Honey Producers Association, but that's just my personal opinion. So yeah, so that's kind of what it is.
Yeah. Okay. I understand.
The big
And
guys
then,
don't really care to have us little guys having a vote, in in
Yeah.
legal affairs that
No, I mean, some
affect the
things like
industry.
that, it shouldn't matter if you're big or small. I mean, it's affecting you all. So, I mean, kind of why shouldn't you have a vote?
Yeah, there's arguments on both sides. You know, it's a different game keeping 2,000 colonies or keeping less than 2,000 colonies. You know, the guys that are keeping 2,000 and 5,000 and 10,000 colonies are definitely in a different world than
Yeah.
somebody like myself, right? So
I don't know. I
there's
mean,
always a little bit of
yeah.
contention there, to be
I,
honest.
yeah. Now, Ian, he is what is it? The president of the, is he in a different
Yeah, he's
area than you? I mean,
he's about I'm going to talk in hours, about 3 hour drive south west of me.
yeah, but
And
is he in the same organization that you're in? Is he the president of that organization, or
yeah,
talks
well,
about his club?
I've kind of blurred the two in what I was saying. The Manitoba Beekeepers Association is this producer board, and
Mhm.
we both sit on that. I'm a director, and Ian is the chair of that board. Um, I was on that board a couple of years before he joined, but I've been on that board for I think 7 years now.
Mhm.
And the bee club that I talk about, I call it the bee club, um, is the Red River Apiarists Association, and that's more of a hobby kind of I call it a bee club because really that's what it's for. It's there to gather together and learn and help each other and be a club, be a social uh, social organization kind of thing.
Right.
It's not a mandated producer board kind of thing. Evening, Phil.
How's it
Hey,
going?
Phil.
So that's where we sit there.
What they're doing, Brad, is Lee brought some mead that he brewed up to the
Oh
Hive
yeah,
Life convention, and he was giving samples out.
I haven't got my mead made up lately.
I made 5 gallons and brought up there. About 260 of the little
Nice.
6-ounce bottles and then a fifth that I promised somebody. Oh,
We got Paul there.
I don't see Paul, but I see some kind of ribbon there.
Yeah, he got won some honey up, or one in the honey show, I believe it was.
Wanted to show you what a winning entry in the amber honey looked like at Hive Life this year.
It was good.
Is that a first place or a second?
Well, they did not offer a first place ribbon, so this is a second place ribbon, but it is the top entry.
Yeah. I was
Right.
about to say that's the second first place.
The second first place ribbon, that is correct.
Yeah, they didn't give out a first place there for that.
Yeah, she explained that on my video that I made and stuff, but it's a different way of judging. I'm not real. I tried that one time as far as putting in honey in my local state honey judging show, and of course now I didn't read the instructions on how to do all that kind of stuff, and I just threw it in there, and it wound around to where I was supposed to get a $2 premium out of it. And I said, well, somebody couldn't actually do the math correctly. And somebody got, like, I'll say a $10 prize. And I said, if you're in it, I told them about their mathematical skills. I found out that guy that got the $10, he was actually dead last, or should have got not anything. But I was the first and the last time I ever did that. I'm like, forget it. It's too much of a
Too detailed for me.
Too detailed. It's presentation and all this other stuff, and I just it's just not my thing. I'll put it to you that way.
So
Just
I had
not
a
my-
smudge and a piece of lint on the bottle, and so they did not order a first place, but I am the second place. That is correctly.
Yeah. So that's cool. So how long did it take you to get home,
Well,
Well-
we went to some friends in Knoxville or whatever and spent the night, but it's probably about 10-hour trip, I guess, driving. We do gain an hour coming back home. So it's about 11-hour trip, but gain an hour, yeah.
Right.
Did you hit some sleet or whatever coming in through Maryland? I saw the weather
No.
pattern look like you were going to get into some weather going back to Maryland.
No, it was raining, and then when we got within, let's say, 10 to 20 miles of Bristol, Tennessee, right there at the line, and as soon as we crossed over into Virginia, it was dry pavement. It was gray and cloudy, but we didn't get any rain whatsoever. We had a dry run all the way into home, so not too bad. I got home at 6 o'clock in the evening, so it was
Okay.
about 10 hours.
Well, Phil, I was glad to meet you there.
Yeah, good to meet you finally.
Yeah. Hanging out at the horizontal beehive studio there.
Yeah, seemed like it was a happening place, so you know.
I was gonna say it's kind of a good gathering we had around there.
It was a happening place. Glad to see a lot of different people. I gave away a lot of bottles to the speakers of honey, the Hail Hive Select honey, and I gave away a lot of Miel de Rey to some of y'all as well. So hopefully you took. I see Lee's got his bottle there.
Yeah, Brad,
And-
Lee, and let's see, Bob, they had their own live stream set up at Hive Life, is what they're talking about and everything. Go ahead, Tim. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think I saw them. I think I saw some of the live feeds or the play-by-plays. I was watching quite a bit of that over the weekend.
I think I would have had a lot more videos on my GoPro, but somebody seemed to forget the little power button on my microphones. So I got a lot of old silent movies I made.
Yeah. Hey, Grammy. Good to see you at Hive Life.
Well, I think Lee had a great suggestion. You know, he said, I'm going to buy the videos, but I don't get to spend time talking to people like I do here. And I went, you know, that's a pretty good idea. So I spent too much time going to all the sessions and stuff, and maybe I should buy the videos and just spend time talking to everybody out there instead.
My biggest problem
Yeah,
was I got there Thursday
I could just buy the
evening.
video and watch it all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly what I was thinking. That I wouldn't stress about not seeing the presentations because I just buy the DVD.
Yeah, I can watch that later. I can't shake hands later. But
That is
at the
true.
same time, I mean, some of it, I guess, I still have to go to the speeches, or we wouldn't have the Hive Life speeches then.
Yeah,
Well,
as much as I wanted to see Chris Warner and some of those other guys do their talks, I just as much wanted to see all y'all and everybody else who has been on this chat or whatever over the past 365 days until next year, and say hi to y'all and shake hands
Actually,
with
it'll be
everybody.
less than 365 days because it's going to be, I think, the 4th, 5th, and 6th next year. So it's sooner than it was this year.
Yeah, first weekend.
Yeah, so my wife barely. I meant to take a video. I should have taken a video of my car because it had a Ricky Rourke long excuse me, horizontal hive. It had 4 boxes of bottles of I guess it was 1.5 pound bottles, 2 boxes of 1.5 pound bottles, a box of 2 pound bottles, a box of 3 pound bottles. I had 5 boxes.
I think he froze on us.
yeah,
No.
he'll come back. Hopefully. Maybe not.
Yeah,
I
either
know
he'll
one
be
thing with
back in
all the
a
lights
second or he'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.
Cajun wants to know, is it going to be at the same location? I presume it will be.
Yeah, as of right
Yeah.
now, it's supposed to be at the same place next year. Now I think he's supposed to open up a couple extra 100 tickets from what I'm hearing. Don't quote me on that; it's not confirmed, but that's what I'm hearing. But if they get much
I'll
bigger,
say
they're gonna have
I
to
got
find
it.
another
I
place.
heard that right out of the horse's mouth.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Late
was
that
there
e-
too when he
late
said
that evening,
maybe about 200
but
more, and that's it.
yeah, came and said that. Now he, like you say, things like that can change because between now and a year from now, it can definitely change and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
he get any bigger, if he does the extra 200 next year, I mean it'd be good. But any bigger than that, I think he's gonna have to find a new location.
Now, what's it? Triton?
Tritone.
Yeah, no, I actually went to his Paul's one of his seminars, and he is very um, approachable and everything. He was on the floor at the trade show, and he had different things he was selling. Those leather belts that he has made that they use at the school and everything like that, and all. So I don't know. I just when it came for me to videotape any of the sessions, I really didn't do it, and figuring the same thing where you can buy the video and be done with it. And I took probably Thursday evening. A lot of people asked me, what did you see or what did you buy? And I'm like, I didn't do anything. All I did was videotape everybody and keep running into everybody. And that was quite tiring in itself. And there he's back. You're back, are you?
Now it's muted.
I'm muted. You're muted, Paul. There you go.
Let me try to get off of YouTube and keep it from echoing here.
He's getting it figured out. Maybe.
But that was the biggest thing is for me, like for videoing, I'm not used to doing cameos or whatever you want to call it, like a show like that, where I'm used to doing a single subject, and I know how to do that part of it or that type of videotaping, and so it was for me. It was the main thing is like everybody has said, we never seen each other for over a year. We know each other from the live streams, and we've never met, and then going out to dinner with quite a few of us and at different evenings and stuff like that was fun. And then actually meeting everybody at the convention there was even more fun. There were some folks I didn't really know who they were. They knew me, but and all that. But I see Brian is back from Colorado, or he's probably back from dinner. He said he was going out to dinner.
Yeah, I seen he was
And
at
all.
dinner earlier. Now, as far as like videoing at the conference, I mean, during the vendor hall, this or that, what gets me, I'm still not used to talking to the camera very little, just myself looking at that camera, but doing it in front of everybody, that's what's really working on me.
Yeah, it's something else.
Yeah, I made it around the vendor show once, and I just gave up after that taking videos.
Yeah, I was
Well,
happy
Phil
to
here
see
with
a lot
our-
of different people. Like I see Cajun on here. I've never seen Brad before, even though he's only about an hour away from me.
Yeah, well, Brad, he actually stayed at the same hotel that I did, and we had breakfast together. I knew him, recognized him right away.
Did you have some yabba dabba doo pancakes?
We had
There you go, Lee. Thank you very much.
they made me do it, Brad. I'm sorry.
we had not pancakes, but waffles. We had waffles there. So Brad,
Yes, sir.
when were you get started up in Canada? As far as keeping bees, like April or May?
Oh, well, see, my bees are indoors. I winter my bees indoors.
Now, do you have
my-
a system like Ian with the ventilation and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's a lot like his. Yeah. See, there's some pretty standard methods to do wintering indoors. So so those of us who do it, we don't vary very much. There's different ways to kind of achieve what you need to achieve, but total darkness, ventilation, 4 degrees, that kind of thing. So my bees generally come out mid to late March.
Okay.
But April generally isn't too warm to do much. We can get some assessments, maybe get some mite treatments in, get some patties on, get some pails on, and they pretty much, I find that I pretty much just rotate feed pails until the 1st of May, and things start to happen pretty fast because then swarming starts 1st of June. So we have to make our splits in May, take care of our swarm preps by 3rd week in May, and head off swarming in early June.
Well, let's talk about the swarming thing, and I guess this is like we've talked about management, especially like at your level, and where I'm going to do a demery, where I'm in that hive every week, where in your situation with 150 hives, that's not really doable. And I know I've watched Ian where he puts a queen. Let's see, how is it? He lets the bees go up into a second story, into a deep.
Yep.
And then he, what was it? Puts a queen excluder in, and I think after a while, he figures out where the queen is at the time, and then pulls that that box off as a split. Is that what you do?
Well,
is that how it's done?
I do most of what mostly what Ian does. So same thing. All my bees are in singles, and they come out, and once they start to get strong enough into late April, usually not in April, but early May, then they get a double. They get a second deep brood chamber, so that she can continue laying and make a nice solid nest in there. They can start to, because buildup is everything in May. Our bees decline until the end of April. There's kind of a saying here that anybody can keep bees alive till February, because most of our bees die in March and April.
See, y'all
because
little
they just
behind
decline.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. The advantage we have is our seasons are very defined and almost predictable. Last year was just a total circus, but that is very unusual. So yeah, we'll put it into a double, and Ian is managing way more than I am. Actually, I'm like about 10% of Ian is what I am, and so the rule kind of here is we say by May long weekend, and our May long weekend is the weekend before your May long weekend. So we say May long weekend, you don't want more than 4 frames of brood in your hive as a swarm prep. So then we'll start to make splits off of the excess. You can do it the hard way. I did it the hard way last year because the weather was so cold. I just had to go through the hives and find the queens and make my splits. I hate doing it that way, but it's very time consuming. But when it's cold, the bees aren't building up. The bees didn't build up in May because weather-wise, May was still April. So they didn't build up. I didn't have doubles in May. So I wanted to make splits. Anyway, I didn't have to make splits.
When you say it the hard way, you're actually pulling frames out and
finding the queen.
And finding the queen, but you're pulling frames and putting in another box to make that split. Is that a 5-frame nuke, or is that going to be another 10-frame hive that you're going to do?
Well, I can tell you what I did, but what I did isn't normal.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. What I did was I made 100 1-frame splits. Pull 1 frame of brood, put it in a 5-frame box, gave it another shake of bees, and in, I don't know, it was within a week, I introduced a mated caged queen. So, a 1-frame split at that time, it's going to grow up, but it's not going to grow up real early. But it's going to be viable.
Is it enough bees in there to keep all that warm, especially in your climate at that time of year?
Yeah. I've done that a lot. I've actually made a 1-frame split late May, and had them thrive and winter well. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'll put them in my building. It was kind of cold at night last spring, so I did put them in my building for a couple days, a couple nights
Mhm.
to keep them warm. And hey, Bob.
Oh,
And
I didn't even know I got added. Sorry.
keep them warm overnight, because you're right, they weren't very big. And once the weather started to get a little bit warmer, then I could leave them outside. But yeah, they thrived. They did okay.
And now, of course, you've got plenty of drawn comb to be able to do that kind of, as far as putting them in
I
a
do
5
now.
frame. Okay.
Yeah, I do now. I crossed that threshold, I think, in 2017. So by 2018, I had all the drawn comb I needed. I'm drawing more comb now because I'm selling some nukes, so I'm starting to deplete my drawn comb every year, and I just draw more comb in the honey flow. Our honey flow is so strong that drawing comb and honey flow is not a problem at all.
Yeah, I think
draw
that's
frame in 3 days.
now. I know Bob here had discussion on that, and with James from over in what's the province over there where he lives?
Alberta.
Alberta.
Yeah,
No,
he's in
is it Alberta?
Grand Prairie, Alberta.
Grand Prairie, Alberta. And he was talking about where he waxes the plastic foundation. Are you doing the same thing to promote wax or build up for wax? Or are you buying pre-wax frames?
Well, I just buy standard Man Lake Right Cell pre-wax foundation, and I have no problem with it. But I don't expect them to draw it anytime but in the honey flow. I have, in the last couple of years, discovered the magic of actually pre-waxing frames in the fall. Well, I pre-wax them in the fall because I have time, and then using those, because they'll draw those up. They'll take the wax you give them, and they'll draw that up really fast in a couple of days. They'll pull that out to the extent that they're able, and if it's outside honey flow, then that's all they're going to do. So I definitely do that. But where I really want to use the waxing, the rolling on of the wax, is when there's a frame in the hive and it sits in there maybe late in the flow, and the flow ends, and the bees, they'll often pick all the wax off the foundation. They'll chew it all off, and if you're using wax foundation, they'll chew the foundation up completely, and it'll be gone.
Right.
And so that's what I want to catch. So anything that comes out of my honey extractor in the fall that's not completely drawn, that goes off to the side. And then when I'm all done extracting, I'll pull those back and I'll re-wax anything that hasn't been drawn, because there's a chance that they've actually stripped that wax off, and they'll never draw that properly if there's no wax on it. Mm-hmm. So this year I actually ended up, I think I re-waxed about 500 frames at the end of the season. So it takes me a few days. Got another one. See, I'm the new guy
takes
here.
A little bit more wax than people realize too, to wax all them frames.
You bet.
Bob
got a couple
the other day.
Yeah. I got a couple new frames of Pura frame that already has wax on them from Premier. Gus Mitchell handed them to me when I walked through the door, so I'm ready to go.
Well, ask James McNally how that worked out for him last year. He ended up having to re-wax them all anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
now,
I don't think any manufacturer would put as much wax on as I put on. I get 10 frames a pound from my wax. I put a lot of wax on there.
I often thought about, having a wax tank, and where you would actually just dip it down and pull it back up. Would that be, I mean, I've tried, the roller, and roll it on. And my problem with that is it kind of fills the divots up. And I'm like, am I putting too much wax on there?
I say if you put any pressure on that roller, it'll fill on in. Me, I just lay the weight of the roller on it and then run it across and back. I don't push down on it.
Yeah, I've tried dipping frames myself, and it ends up filling up everything, and they don't draw it out.
I understand putting wax in the divots, if you were to dip it, fills the divots, and that's not what the bees want. They want it to be on top of those little the actual hexagon pieces that are coming up to start drawing from there.
with that being said, Mr. Ed dips all his in wax. So
Yeah.
he's
The
got
only
a
thing
video
I
on
look
it.
at
Yeah.
dipping them, or if you fill those little divots in, that little divot's not very deep. But if you add up both
No.
sides of that frame, every divot filled in, how much
Yeah.
honey are you losing that they can't put down in that divot?
I found that getting wax in that divot. Now, don't forget, I'm using strictly, almost 100% strictly right cell foundation, and right cell actually has a pretty deep pattern. So there's that, and I found that getting the wax in the cell on that isn't a deal killer. It's kind of how much wax you get in that cell. There are times when I can see that they haven't pulled the wax out of that cell. It doesn't seem to affect anything at all, but it's just kind of a waste of wax because they don't end up using it. But even when I roll that on, I put quite a bit of wax on there, and
Yeah,
they'll draw that right up into a nice comb.
they'll probably end up pulling that out when they end up polishing the cell before the queen actually lays in that cell. But
Yeah, in my case, they pull it out of there right away. Like in 2 days, they'll pull all that wax and make nice comb out of it, just as thick as they can with what they have.
Yeah.
And if there's not, I don't know how much is too much, but if there's not too much wax in that cell bottom in that foundation, they'll pull it all out. Sometimes if there's too much wax, they won't pull it all out. The only downsides I can see is that A, it's a waste of wax because it doesn't get used for anything, and B, when I've got that frame now in a brood chamber, I'm looking into that cell trying to see eggs or royal jelly or something, and I can see a white bottom. Now I use all black foundation, so if I see a white bottom, it might look like a royal jelly or something, and it's not. It's wax, so that confuses me, right? So that's just what I've noticed. I actually did this whole thing on Tuesday night at the at the bee club meeting. Did my little waxing demo.
Yeah, my
Well, I
two
wish
things,
that-
like I said, over waxing. If you put too much, one, I'm filling in that divot, so that's less honey that they could put in, and then I'm using up extra wax in there too that could go on the cell walls of another frame.
Yeah, it's no doubt a waste of wax. So
'Cause
that's just kind of how you
ain't
can
cheap.
moderate yourself.
If you don't have enough and you got to buy it, that's going to add up quick, or it's going to use up all your wax if you plan on making lip balms or candles, oops, anything like that.
Sure, but you only buy that wax once. If it's your wax, you only apply that wax once because every year that wax comes back to you.
Yeah.
So you only do it the first time, and then the next year all that wax comes back to you.
Now,
Well, Bob Benny told me this last week that all the wax in the whole United States has been contaminated by all these different
Pesticides.
pesticides
not untrue.
and or antibiotics and or whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not untrue. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I was watching some of the replays on when you guys were talking about the getting pre-waxed or waxing with your own wax. One of the things that kind of come across my mind was, do you think that the bees in your area or your hives using the wax from stuff in your area would make them draw it out faster that way rather than getting wax wherever they're getting their wax from, like the manufacturers?
Well, I don't know. With mine, it's kind of hit or miss, right? Some frames they'll just jump right on and pull right out, and then some frames they just don't do anything with. And a prime example was those green drone frames. I've had those things for 3 years in the colony, and they never would touch them. And then this week, after talking to James, obviously, guys, I know, stab me in my eye because you guys have already told me. Lee's told me, make sure you wax them, and I didn't. And as soon as I waxed them, I dropped it in a frame, threw a feeder on, came back 24 hours later, and they're on one side working on it,
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's all about giving them a foundation to start from. But then to answer your question, Phil, I guess it's about what's coming into the hive at the time, the feed that you're giving them, and what's coming in from the outside as to whether or not they're going to build up that foundation that you've given them to start from.
Yeah.
You know what? I ordered from Dancing Bee for the very first time, and it took from Manitoba, Dancing Bee, from Mike out there, Brad. And
Mike, yeah.
I ordered it, well, this week, and it came in today. So it wasn't even a week shipping from Canada
Nice.
here. So
Nice.
Hey, Tim.
worked out pretty well.
So
what can you
I
tell
wanted
me
to
about that Canopy foundation that they carry?
No, I don't know anything about it. I
So-
don't use anything else.
Okay. I just saw where they had
I didn't
a
even recognize it. I didn't even know anything like that existed.
Well,
Sorry.
it might be just their own brand name of like Man Lake Right Cell type of deal. But
Yeah,
it's
I don't know.
I know they have a bunch on clearance up there. So
I was going to say, Charlie, you said something about, you asked about dipping into a tank. And
Yeah.
I know Ian bought a boatload of foundation that wasn't waxed. So he had to wax it. And so what they did was, I think he was using his wax melter, which is the same as the wax melter I have.
Right.
And what they did is they put a whole bunch of water in it, and then they put a layer of wax, and I don't know how much. It might be a couple inches of wax
Right.
on the top. So when they dip it in, they're not going all the way down to, they're not going 17 inches of wax. They go down and into the water, and then up. He said that worked pretty good. So then you don't have to have nearly as much wax. Like getting a vessel that's 18 inches deep with wax, that's a lot of wax.
Yeah. Right.
So then
I don't know. I mean,
said
years
that worked
ago,
pretty good.
I waxed with a, like a real thin, nappy roller and all. And like I say, got maybe too much wax, got maybe I pressed too hard. And then, and it's like you, Brad, I had some triple wax, acorn, and I had some nukes out there, and they were drawing the wax out to where maybe it was about 1/8 of an inch tall on the walls, and she had already laid eggs in it, and they were drawing the wax up around the eggs. And then I found out it's like this picture right behind me. There's kind of a junk pile back there. Well, I had a guy give me a tote. Well, it's I don't think you call it a tote. It's like a big bag, holds like a ton of sugar. And somebody gave it to him. And I tried to cook it on the stove to see what it was going to be like, and it turned kind of brown. I'm like, well, I'm not sure what I want to feed this to my bees. So it was sitting in the hay barn there for quite a long time on a pallet. And my brother said, to get rid of it. So he stuck it outside about where that old Chevy truck thing sits there. And I was, things were going along pretty good in there, like our girth area. Well, no wonder they were all over there at that big sugar pile where it rained on it. And it was an open feeding session for all the bees in the world. And like you say, if you have a good, strong flow, they will build the wax, and that's
Absolutely.
key. That's the absolute key, is that you
I've
recognize
what
that.
you talk about, where that cell is hardly built at all, and she's laid an egg in it. I chuckle every time I see that. I
think it's
I look at that and I say that
fascinating.
queen is pushing the workers because they've got to finish that.
Yeah,
She said, "Okay, I'm going to lay in that. You got to get to
got to
work
get
done.
busy
You got to get busy. That's for sure."
and all that. And so that was one of the reasons why, they were drawing wax out it was beautiful because it was black plastic, and you could, like you say, you can see the eggs, like it just pops out at you and all. And it was a gorgeous sight and all that.
I really like the black foundation.
Yeah, that's
really
definitely,
me.
I know it's, a lot of, reseller or, suppliers and stuff will always have that yellow plastic for foundation. And I asked them, I said, why do you sell this stuff? You want people to learn to be able to see eggs. And why aren't you all selling black so they can see the eggs, especially when they're just starting out and all that. But
that's me. All of my brood chambers have black foundation in them. I don't use no white.
I use black everywhere. It doesn't matter what
All my supers, I got the white or off-white, yellowish, whatever they want to call.
Well, I throw my supplier a curveball, and Michael attests to this. I throw him a curveball once in a while, and I order a few boxes of black medium foundation. I think of the only one in the province that buys black medium.
Just
Yeah.
throwing the curveball
I'll
there.
cut it up for mini nukes. First of all, I'll cut it up for that. And I have a friend actually. She runs all medium brood chambers. So when I build frames for her, I'll go and get some black medium for her frames.
Well, do you use white foundation for your honey supers or not? Well, you're using
Never.
deeps anyway, right?
All deeps, all black in wood. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I do use medium honey supers, and well, actually I use mediums throughout, because if I had a in your situation, you have a hive lifter at least or something to be able to move all that
Yeah.
heavy stuff.
I
Yeah.
got 10 or 15 mediums I use for foundationless for comb honey.
Mm-hmm.
I just put a little wedge at the top and then throw that in on the hive, and they'll draw that out nice. I never use any of that thin foundation for comb honey.
Oh, yeah?
They just draw it right from scratch. And well, because the flow is so strong here, right, I can get away with that. I know a lot of people can't.
I might take one or two shallow boxes and put the thin foundation for comb honey.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get it. I get it with different flows, but the flow here is so unbelievably strong when it starts in July that I just throw that on there, and they'll build out a few boxes of that. No problem.
Well, what do you use? What is your extraction line? What do you have?
Oh, it's pretty rickety old thing. I've got a 33 frame Kelly radial,
Really?
and it's
Okay.
probably as old as I am. It does really good though. It spins, but it takes me a long time. 33 frames. I mean, that's hardly more than 3 boxes, right? So it's tough. But I've also got an old time Cowan automatic uncapper, and so that's kind of a blessing to have. It speeds things up a lot.
Well, that's funny the way you said that. That the 33 frame isn't basically, it's not enough for what you're doing, right? So that's kind of the same way we've been talking about it. When I got the 30 frame, and people are like, oh, that's 30 frame, right? But yeah, you got to have it sized to your operation, or otherwise it's, it is nice, but it's just not doing it as fast as you need to.
Right now, I would never justify pouring any money into anything bigger and faster, because that's not my bottleneck. My bottleneck is getting that honey to a point where I can strain it into the pail, because the first few years I did this, I would just extract into a pail, and I end up with 300 pails of honey, and then I have to warm that again to strain it before I can pack it. So I spend all winter warming and straining honey. So now I'm trying to get that strained once, extracted, get it warmed, get it strained, get it into the pail, and then I don't need to touch it again. I never open that pail again. It goes in the
What
cabinet.
do you warm it to?
Warms up there.
What temperature do you warm it
That's a
to
good
for bottling?
question. I'm straining at 400 microns, and I find that I hate warming it so much, but I find that I really need to get it to 45 C to get it through that strainer to in any reasonable fashion. It drives me crazy trying to chase honey through a strainer.
That's 113.
So 45 was
Fahrenheit.
113. Yeah. Just pretty warm, but I don't think it doesn't stay that warm very long. Maybe half an hour.
See, like if I'm taking mine out of the bucket to put into my bottling tank, if I strain it through there, I'm going usually 95 to 100. So you figure 37 C on my top end.
What's your strainer?
I run it through a 400 micron, and then I run it back through a 200 micron. Just that way,
Yeah,
if
see,
I have any
that's
extra wax particles in there, it's not clogging up my
yeah,
200 too fast.
yeah. I have a 600 as well, and sometimes I'll run the 600 first and then the 400. I don't go any smaller than 400. It would just be way too difficult, and I find I don't have to. My honey's pretty clean at
Yeah.
400.
Well,
So
That's interesting that you can get it through a 237. That's interesting.
what's the common bucket strainer, Lee? I don't even know what they.
The metal ones that you
Yeah,
see most people using has got the double layer. Usually the top one's a 1000 micron and the bottom is either a 5 or 600 micron.
Yeah, that's what I use. I just strain it through that into the bucket and I'm done.
Now I have the
Yeah,
plastic
yeah,
filters that fit on the 5-gallon buckets, and you can get
that's
them
what I
on
use.
600, 500, 400, all the way down to like 200.
Yeah,
well, it was better
yeah,
this
And
year,
they're a
but
lot cheaper too. The plastic ones are a lot cheaper.
but the damn
yeah.
wax plugs up those strainers so quick.
Turn it over and wash it out backwards with warm water.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the
what
way-
I've learned is, you're running. I'll put the one that sit the stainless one that goes over top the 5-gallon bucket, and then I'll bring that honey up to the bottom of that strainer that's where as far as I go with the honey, as far as filling, it's about 52 to 54 pounds, and then after that I usually carry a couple of them, and while it's straining with the new strainer, I'll take it outside with a hose and wash it out and dry it off and get ready for the next bucket and stuff like it. But now,
Yeah,
Brad, are you doing 55-gallon drums or
no,
buckets?
no. I'm doing 5-gallon pails. And
Okay.
I'm only putting 50 pounds in a pail, and washing
Yes.
filters. Yeah, we wash that filter once or twice per 50-pound pail. So it
Yeah.
takes a lot of washing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
Takes
I
a
do.
lot
I
of
find it's keeps the honey about 3 or 4 inches below the lip of the bucket. It's easier to pour. It's less spillage problems and all that. But now you were building a honey warming cabinet, I believe it was, in one of your videos.
Oh yeah, I've built a couple of them.
So
Yeah.
you can put how many buckets of honey in there in one of those
I put
cabinets?
12, so that's 600 pounds.
And that
put
sits
12
on
5-gallon pails in it.
it sits on the floor, I presume. You just kind of walk, or
Yeah.
how I guess how deep is it where you put like 70, if there's the bottom area, is it like 6 buckets or 5 buckets or 4 buckets or whatever? Or?
Yeah, I have these little pallets that I use that I can nicely lift with my tractor, and I can fit 6 buckets on each pallet. So I've made my cabinet tall enough that I can put one pallet on top of the other. And the pallet is, the cabinet is 48 by 24 inside, and then I don't know how tall it is, but
All right,
it's
so you're using
two-
the double hive pallets like that you normally use for your pallet.
No, they're not
No?
those pallets. They're actually a kind of a special pallet that a buddy can get at his workplace, and I cut them in 2, so they're only half as deep, and they work pretty good for what I'm doing. They fit 6 pails really nice, and because then I don't have to lift nearly as much as much honey. I lift 100,000 pounds of honey a year by hand. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. I mean, it's like this year, I finally got a Maxant bottling tank. And I mean, I was like, man, I should have had this 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
where I have a refrigerator in the basement where I can put 3 5-gallon buckets in there for a hot box. And that does pretty good. Keeps it relatively from crystallizing. And then with this new tank, it's the one next to the smallest one, and it holds 25 gallons. And I try to keep it full at all times, which alleviates me, like you say, lifting buckets, carrying them up the staircase or whatever. And now I just I use a hand truck, and then I do have to lift them to pour it into that tank. But I don't have to do that but every month or so. And it saves my shoulders and stuff like that and your back. And it's like you
I
saying,
did it
if
recently
you
moving. loading that. You can see if you look around my channel, I videoed loading that recently
Okay.
in December, I think. Yeah, I park it right at the facing my overhead door, so I can just up the overhead door, and then I can
Mhm.
reach it from the outside and load it with my tractor. Put the
Yeah, I
skates
mean
in there
that's the
with the
way to
tractor
go.
and
I
all
mean,
that.
I know we had talked here that one of the other chat that I forget what chat, whether it was my chat or Bob's or Lee's, but
I
talking
remember.
about the Hive lifter and talking
Yeah,
about using that versus like you say your John Deere tractor with the front end loader on the front and that kind of versus
well,
a let's
mine's
say
a
a
Kubota
Bobcat.
tractor, but yeah,
Kubota. I thought it was John. No, I guess it was Kubota and
I
all.
think James was saying he borrowed a John Deere for his job.
That's what it was.
Is
James
where
is.
you
Oh
might have got
yeah,
that from.
yeah. He actually, I believe I did see him out there in his yards with that. He has a
Yeah,
two hive pallet system and all that.
yeah, he
And
built exactly what I'm using. He used my patterns for what he built.
yeah, I believe he did say that he stopped by and you were
Yeah.
showing him how to do all that.
All that
Now,
stuff I build, I put on the SketchUp. The SketchUp has a library online, and you can go to the SketchUp library online, and you can look at different patterns. People that do 3D printing do the same thing, but SketchUp, you can go there, and all my stuff is there, so you can find
hmm,
all of my diagrams for my pallets, my lids, my all that kind of stuff is all on there.
and that's a let's see, internet channel just called SketchUp.
Well, SketchUp is a kind of a modeling program. It's
Yeah, I
kind of like
believe
a
I
very
actually have a
simple
copy of it. And
AutoCAD.
I just never used it.
Yeah. It's hard to guess how to use it. You need a little bit of a tutorial, but it's not hard to use once you kind of get the
Right.
tutorial. Yeah.
But let's see what I was going to go with it. Oh, I know what it was. You were talking about the hobby beekeepers, I'll say, in your area that you have a club. Now, I presume that they're wintering their bees outside in the snow and all. Is that
Most
how they're?
hobbyists do. Yeah. Yeah.
Are
They
they
maybe don't.
obviously insulating up in your area because of the
Oh yeah.
very cold
Oh,
weather?
for sure. For sure. I only wintered bees outside once. My first year, I was keeping bees, and I had 100% survivorship. So what I did worked, and it doesn't take as much actual insulation as you might think.
Yeah.
I just use bee cozies, which are R8 on my
Okay,
hives,
you mean
and
the slip over things? Yeah.
yeah, that donut thing that goes around. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and I find that one of the most beneficial things that they can have is they can have a good snow cover. If that hive gets completely covered in snow in a snowbank, that's perfect because they're completely insulated from the elements. Then snow is an excellent insulator, and
It's like an
they
igloo.
get no exactly and literally, Bob. You can dig through there after a while. You dig through there, and you'll find that there's no snow within 4 inches of that hive, because they've heated the whole thing and they've made a little ice igloo in there.
Hmm.
And so the ground then moderates all of the temperatures. The ground doesn't change temperature very fast at all. And so the ground is now moderating temperatures. The wind has no effect on them. And the cold air outside has far less effect because they have all that insulating snow. Yeah, it's proven. If your hives are covered in snow, they do very well.
What's
Yeah, and
snow?
huh?
Yeah, what's snow?
What's snow?
Yeah, I know
The
Ian
white
showed,
crap behind me.
yeah, Ian showed where he kind of dug down there where they, like you said, the heat out of the front of the entrance, they had about a
Yeah.
3 or 4 inch cavity there that they could go out and get water and stuff like that. And
Yeah, that's
um,
remarkable.
yeah, there was I guess there's a chat on, actually tonight, it's a local chat here that I used to go to, and it was a lot of beginners. And this one lady, she was worried about, oh, you got to go out there and wipe the snow off the entranceway. You know, they're going to suffocate or whatever. And I just kind of chuckled, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not that way. It's just, you know, it's nothing's that
Yeah.
tight.
You know, they can. I had one of my friends had that happen, and a lot of ice on the hive, but it was late in the season, and a cold snap came by, and all of his hives all iced up and everything, and he didn't take care of them, and they all died. So there are situations that that can happen.
So
Yeah,
if,
Brad, you got a nice background behind you, but it looks a little too flat to ski on back there, you know.
It's too flat to ski here for sure. You
so
can throw
you're
rice
saying
here
that
sometimes.
the front of the hive, if it does ice over, that's you do have to remove that, or they can handle
I think
that.
in his situation, he had just bottom entrances or something, and everything got iced up.
Okay. So they were completely, trapped inside, you know. So.
Yeah, but that's unusual. That's unusual.
Mhm.
We had a guy here last year in the bee club. He was losing his mind because everything was so late and so unusual last year, and he got myself and our president on email chat one night, and he said I don't know what to do. He said I got a whole yard of bees that has they're under 6 feet of snow, and he showed pictures, and he's not kidding. 6 feet of snow. He dug down into one, and it was literally a 6 foot deep hole in this
Yeah.
snowbank to find this beehive, and he was losing his mind. He didn't know what to do, and we didn't know what to tell him. And he had another yard that didn't have that kind of snow cover, and he came back to us in June, and he said, "You know what, guys?" He said that yard that was under 6 feet of snow at the end of April is miles beyond the yard that wasn't covered in snow, as far as buildup and health and vigor goes.
Okay.
they, they were awesome. So
I think Paul, he's going to show off his
I'm
hive
showing off
there.
my Ricky Rourke horizontal
Yeah.
hive.
That was a nice hive.
that's
Horizontal
pretty sweet.
hive here. It's got 6 different entrances or whatever along here.
No, that's not it. How did we do that, Lee?
It's the,
Bring
it's,
it up to big.
it's the
His
square.
picture at the bottom, click the little person that's right there. He'll say solo layout.
That one.
Now, his picture at the bottom where it says Hell Hives,
Yeah.
the little bitty guy that's sitting inside of his picture.
I don't see it. There's none. Oh.
Yep, I got you this time.
There you go. So it's got 6 different little bee hacienda hotels here. And if I open it up on the top, you can see that it's got several different
It's on
places
casters too.
well, it is now.
Oh, okay.
Just mild modification.
Paul, how many frames per section?
5 nukes.
5 frame nukes.
You're
Yeah,
muted,
you're
Paul.
muted.
6 times 5 frame nukes.
Thank you.
And then you're all talking about extraction. There's my Hilco 8 frame extractor. And then y'all were talking about warming honey earlier. This is what I came up with this. This is what I came up with this year. I don't know if you can see it or not.
I see you.
But let me try this here. This is a big blue barrel, 55-gallon barrel. And inside, let me see if I can pull this flashlight out here. Inside, it has a
Immersion heater.
It has a 300-watt just blow heater. I mean, a work light and a cinder block, and that works well at overnight decrystallizing a 5-gallon bucket of honey.
So you just set the bucket right on the cinder block?
Set the bucket on the cinder block, put the it's a work light with a 300-watt halogen bulb on it inside that bucket, inside that barrel, and it works well at decrystallizing that honey. So,
do you know
You
what
have an idea
temperature?
what temperature that raises? It got
I have no idea what temperature that is, but it works fairly well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just something cheap and easy for others out there to say, hey, put it in a closure, put a light that you already have. For small little 1 pound bottles, I put them in the oven and then just turn the oven light on, not the heat, just the oven light on a tray, and it decrystallizes them well.
I just put I've got one of those square chicken egg incubators that I got from Tractor Supply that anything that starts crystallizing, as far as once it's bottled, I just set them all in the chicken egg incubator and set the temperature and forget about them. And it seems to work pretty well.
Well,
Kind
that's
of like a Ronco thing. Set it and forget it, and it's done.
Yeah. Yep.
That's where I have that refrigerator where I put my 3 5-gallon buckets in there, and then also in the doorway you have the shelving air, and I'll put my bottles in and stuff like that. Like Lee gave me some honey; it was crystallized. It's down there now, and I keep it. I have a temperature, one of them Inkbird temperature gauges, and it keeps it. I got it set at 110 degrees right now, but it doesn't keep the honey that hot. Honey will stay around 90 some degrees, something like that.
That's what I found. I set mine to about 108 because by the time it goes through the box and then through the container to the honey, the rest of the warmer has already got above that temperature and it's knocked the light off. So it don't actually get that warm in the honey.
Yeah, Brad and Lisa, I'm getting all the toys, but it's whatever's cheap and whatever to get what we need done. That's what it is.
Yeah, you got to pace yourself, right? As you grow.
One piece at a time, baby.
That's it. Next couple more years, Paul will be saying, well, time to upgrade the extractor and get the bigger model.
Hashtag Paul 20, right?
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there has always been a lot of folks, they will say to me, I'll buy, let's say an extractor or any type of tool. And I said, always equate that money that you spend. Like I have a Hive Butler uncapping tank, which I was going to get a steel one, but actually I got it and then it was damaged. And I went ahead and just got the little plastic one, which works for me. I have
one too, Charlie.
Well, it's $200. And I said, well, people say, oh, it's $200. And I'm like, well, don't you sell 20 pounds of honey a year? Yeah,
exactly.
Well, at $10 a pound, that's $200. The bees are going to pay for your expenses. And then if it's let's say an extractor, 18 or 20, let's say a 20 frame, maybe for time shipping is involved, let's say $1,500. And you got to, sell 150 bottles of honey. I mean, everybody could do that.
I like to stay just behind the wave of breaking even, unlike Lee and whatever, who has like 20 years to catch up.
I figure buy once, cry once. So when I do actually buy something, I try to buy ahead of what I need. That way I can catch up to that and not have the bottleneck.
Exactly.
But I don't want to go so far. Well, don't get me wrong. I do want to go very far ahead, but my wallet don't want to. You don't know how bad I want to buy more stuff at the Hive Life conference. I was wanting to buy everything there, but good thing I have a small car. I can only bring so much with me.
Like I was saying
And
earlier, I wanted to
extracting.
take a video of my pilot. It was so packed full. I barely fit my suitcases back in to come back home, and my wife. I joked last year that I'm going to have to buy my wife a ticket to fly back home because there wasn't enough room for her in the car. And we got real close to that again this year. But we made it home, and she got to drive back with me. But yeah, she said she bought two pairs of socks and a salt and pepper shaker, and she said I couldn't buy two salt and pepper shakers or they wouldn't have fit. So that's about how close we had.
Our vehicle was pretty packed even going up there. I mean, I didn't even get to bring my other camera bag that I wanted to bring, but with all the computer equipment for the live and then our clothes and all that, the only thing I bought was my LaRobbie's vaporizer. And I had to stop and give Renee a new coffee pot. She didn't like the one in the room.
I stopped by my mentors today, and of course he's like, "Oh, well, you could have just used my trailer out here." I'm like, "Oh, well, thanks." Now that I'm back and didn't buy anything.
Well, we know what Bob's doing next year now. He bringing.
Yeah, Lisa saw that pilot, and she gave me two jars of marmalade. We had to find a new place for those.
Some things were good too.
I haven't broke into mine yet, but it's coming. It is coming.
It was a good week. I can't complain. Just came in a text today, said, "Hey, great job, you guys. Hey, I hope you had a chance to get a breath this week." And I told him thank you to you and Laurel and all his team. I think they did a great job this year.
Yeah, they really did.
They did.
I think when tickets go on for sale, probably better not wait this year.
Yeah, Bob's going to still wait and see if Lee's going to give him one for free.
Well, is Dry
No.
Cut still in the comments? We need to make sure he hears that too, William.
I think he learned his lesson.
Well,
He felt it.
No checks.
I
You
think
think
he's still wiping tears up from that one.
You think so?
the big problem with it is when they start selling them, you don't know what's going to happen 6 months down the road. You don't know, especially in my situation where my mother has Alzheimer's and we're here taking care of her. You just don't know.
Yeah, so 2023 is going to be what, 2,500 people in Sevierville?
I don't know.
Well, I think he said Charlie, he's expanding another 200 tickets roundabout.
He's
Thinking about 200.
yeah, thinking.
Yeah.
I'm going to say thinking about it.
I was a little cautious this year going from 900 last year to really we only had about 800 show up. He had about 100 tickets that didn't show up because of the weather. I was thinking, okay, we're going to 1,800. That's essentially double. Wow. But
And
I think they handled it well this year. But I think if you try to double again, it's gonna blow out the seams.
Yeah,
From
he
what
said
I
he
was
had
hearing, there was
800
like
on paper.
800 people on the waiting list.
I told
so
him
he
back
had
in
800.
June that he could have sold 2,500 tickets. He's like, no, I don't think. I think we'll probably only get about 1,800. And
he could sell 2,500 if he had 800 on the waiting list. In addition to 1,800, that's 2,600. Wow.
Yeah.
That may be too many people walking around the Sevierville Convention Center or whatever to handle it. I don't know.
Might be able to talk some restaurants into staying open later.
Yeah. you can't get a burrito downtown, can you?
Ooh, not that time of year, off season.
Very
I mean,
few
there
places.
was still a couple of places to eat that was pretty decent. I mean, we had fun. A couple of us, we all got together, went out and ate.
Yeah. I have to say that I was wondering whether or not we were going to be elbow to elbow when it came to, we basically doubled the size of the amount of people in that convention. But we have to think that we tripled the size of the rooms because we, opened up 2 more rooms.
Yeah.
So and then that way we had people in 2 different. Well, you had the trade show in one, and then you had the other 2 other rooms. That kind of spread everybody out, and it was very comfortable.
It was nice that they pulled the trade show out of the main convention hall this year, so you didn't have that crosstalk over who was speaking.
The only complaint that I have is the same thing we had last year, is in that it's room B, the original room. They got those high ceilings. It's not designed for speaking, and it echoes like crazy. I
Yeah.
don't know what they could do about that, but
Well, I found if you were in the front section, up about 2/3 of the front section was fine. If you got between the last third and the back speakers, it was echoey. But
yeah,
once you got beyond the back speakers there, it was fine again for the next 2/3.
I went up all the way up to the front where they had just chairs sitting up there, and it worked out okay. I mean, and that is like Brad said about buying the CD-ROM. I that's why I didn't even really try to videotape a little bit of it because of all the echoes and stuff. And I'm like, well, it's like you say, just buy the CD-ROM and it's the same thing. And as far as
It's
the
not the same
information,
thing. It's actually, Charlie, it's actually better because you can go back and watch it as much as you want over and over
True.
again.
well, and I'm sure the sound's going to be much better too,
Yep.
and all that.
Yeah, well, I had Brad, Brian, I had me and my wife as note takers, so we got twice the number of notes, so we're good to go. But I did
Well,
get to,
I mean,
I did like seeing Chris Warner live. I've been wanting to hear him for a long time, and I was not disappointed with his presentation.
I watched his presentation and about queen rearing
Yeah.
and actually there was the other guy, I forget what his name was. He was there the first year talking about the same. What is it, Brad? It's called a queen right cell finisher, where you're switching the boxes around where your queen is upstairs and your cell builders
Yeah.
at the bottom. And then
Last year was Rick Sutton, Charlie.
Rick Sutton had the same presentation as far as, and it was kind of like a review for me. And who else is coming in?
But Chris is the guy. You want to watch
Hey,
him.
Ed.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. Hey, Dad.
Hey,
Hey, Ed. But yeah, I watched him and it was good. I'm not sure whether or not I actually last year bought some double screen boards to try that method out, where I usually do a nuke, a 5-frame nuke, and use that as my cell builder. And then I wait 6 days. When the cells are capped, I pull it out and put an incubator in and rotate it that way. And I've been successful with that. One of the things I did buy was at Better Bee. They had this. It's a queen cage for one frame. It's basically
I have 2 of those.
You got 2 of those.
Yeah, I'll grab one. I'll show them people really quick.
Okay, I got mine in the back room, but I went down to Tennessee, down to Hardeman's, and I watched I actually videotaped some of it, and they have a timing box, and it's the same principle. You just put your empty frame in, put your queen in there, let her lay for 24 hours, pull that frame out, and then space it back through the hive. And then the 4th day, that's the frame you'll be grafting from, and that times your eggs out to, for the larvae goes and stuff.
Yeah, it's a good method you can't miss.
Yeah, I'm interested in see if that's going to work for me.
So wait a minute. So you're taking a double deep box and you're rotating one of the boxes up over the 2.
Well, that was the way he was showing. What I'm talking about is at Hardeman's, they'll have a 10-frame box, and it was like Bob Benning was selling these there. They were timing boxes, and it's 2 queen excluders vertically, and you put the frame down in the center of that, and it's basically she's in jail. You put there it is right there. And you put the frame in there with the queen on. So now the worker bees will go in there and lay up on the frame or help, feed the larvae and stuff while she's in there. And then she just lays it up. So that you come back in 24 hours, that's 1 day. And then you pull that frame out of there, take her off of it, put another frame in, and then you put that on the outside of that cage next to the cage, and they will feed those and support the larvae and the eggs. And as it progresses out onto the 4th day, that's when those are hatched. So down in Georgia, they're pretty much everything's on a very good time schedule. Every day at 1 o'clock, doesn't matter what day it is. And that's how they time those eggs out and all. So I'm trying to maybe imitate that process.
So Bob Binney has that queen rearing series, and in that series he goes down to Florida to Chris Werner's, and you see him work a timing box. And it's great for those large scale situations, but I've found for like someone small like me, it's so much easier just to go into a colony and just find the right frame you're looking for. Or just to do this, and this is the one I'm going to do. Just do this, put my queen in here with a good frame for her laying in 4 days prior to when I want to graft. And then I
that's a
have this
fancy
one
toy.
exactly. It's like 20, $25. They had them in the Better Be booth this year.
Yeah,
that's essentially doing the same thing that he does with 2 clean excluders in the exclusion box or whatever that he has. Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, but
exact
he wanted
same thing.
100. He wanted $100 and some for that box, and that there's like you say about $30. And you're
That's
done.
right. Fits in any box. That
Fits
fits
in
next
any
drop.
box.
That's right.
A deep box and a table saw, $100? I don't think so.
Reminds you of that NICOT system, but with extra steps.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it'll work. I mean, that way you can time it out, but you actually got to finish putting the queen in and actually using it for my sake anyway.
Yeah, Lee, you use the NICOT system, right? With a special little frame with the lay-in cells.
I put it in the box. I'm not going to say that I used it because I put it in to get the bee scent on it, let them start drawing out, kind of going through the little excluder to get in there polished. But I never went back and actually opened the little hole and put the queen in.
Did you
Yeah,
check
to me, separate frame, 3 days, let them lay, graft from that frame, you're good to go.
What you got there, Bob? One of them new. I wanted to buy one of them. They were sold out.
I got one of those
You
too.
know who got them?
Nah, I think you got more than just one though.
Yeah, I got a dozen of them.
Nice.
Smoke them till they stop falling, and you're good to go.
And compliments of Canada, directly from Canada. So
You know what
Take
cage
off.
that she's holding there, Brian?
say that again.
The queen excluding cage he was holding.
Yeah.
I can't remember whose video. I can't remember if it was Inside the Hive or somebody else. But they were talking about using that to aid in reducing the amount of area that the queen has to lay so that the Varroa get concentrated on to one frame.
Yeah, I think that was part of the conversations with
Better
maybe
be.
Cameron
Varroa.
Jack and isolating queens and kind of separating them out like above a queen excluder or something like that to isolate and then pull out brood for some sort of brood break. That does sound familiar. Thank you.
Better Be talked about that they said, the pitch he started with me was you can use this for a brood break. And I'm like,
Right.
no, I'm going to use it for a queen rearing a timing box.
Yeah.
But now, Brad, I know that you do your own queen rearing up in Canada.
I try.
I'm sure you're doing grafting for sure.
Yes.
And all. Are you just picking a frame out of one of your queens that you particularly care for? I mean,
Yeah.
or
That's exactly what I do. I do wish I had a better system, but so far it works fine. I think queen timing kind of becomes a lot more necessary when you're going to be grafting, more than 45 cells at a sitting, right? If you're going to be pulling 100 or 200 or something like that, then you need a little better concentration of what's on that frame, because honestly, sometimes I'm even pulling 2 frames so that I have enough to choose from.
Yeah.
I mean, the best, I know in my videos, I think I've said this, and let's see, Kent Williams taught me how to do that back in 19 over there at the honey show in, let's see, Knoxville. But he tried to explain how to calculate to get the eggs at the right time and, find the eggs and then come back in 3 days. Well, I tried that and they were too old. They were, they were older than what I thought
Mm.
they were. And there's not really a good way of telling that. And the best way I've found is that you go in, you find jelly in the cells, but you physically, I can't take my regular glasses and look at it and see anything really floating in there. And then by that, I know there's the right age larvae in there, and when you put the magnification unit on, and that's been my way of doing it. Now, sometimes it's like as time progresses and she's starting to slow down, it's harder and harder to find, frames that are just right for the job and everything.
Yeah,
But I usually do 30.
I'll often use the patterns because you'll see the more mature pupa and larvae in the center,
Yeah.
and then as it progresses out, you get into eggs. So I could just kind of often I'll look for that pattern and just sort of where
Yeah. That's
where
what,
the eggs stop. That I just go a little bit inside that, and that should give me what I'm looking for.
yeah,
There
there's
was a
Lee.
guy here I visited a number of years ago, a commercial queen producer here in Manitoba, which our season is short enough that our commercial queen producers aren't anything like you know Jose in California or anything like that. But
Right.
anyway, that's what he does, and he does exactly what you've been talking about with that frame that you put the hive in, and Bob Binney putting the queen excluders in and whatnot. But it's a little bit different, and I think it's quite ingenious. If you picture a box, and I don't remember how many frames were in this box, but it was longer than a standard 10 frame box. It maybe held,
Okay.
let's say it held 15 frames. Um, so if it held 15 frames, and you could probably say it should hold 21 frames, and you'll get why I said that in a second. And what he's done is he's put a queen excluder in that box after the fourth frame. So what he does, because he's commercial and they're working at this
Yeah.
every day, and you made me think of this, Charlie, when you said, at 1 o'clock you do this kind of thing. So every day they'll go and take all the frames in that box and they'll move them all down one position. So they put an empty comb in the end, and that comb will take 4 days to get to the queen excluder. And by the time it's at the queen excluder, now it has 4 days. She's laid in that 4 days ago, and so that's your frame. Then you take that, you do your graft, and then it comes back. It moves across the queen excluder, and then you take another empty and put in the beginning. So every day the frames all move down one position.
Yeah, I filmed that with the Hardimans down there in Georgia, and they had and he had showed me that like 1 year prior to me filming, and it was like it's one of the things you have to keep watching it. And finally, after I filmed it, and then I even had to go back and watch my videos, and I got him to explain in detail, where, like you said, he pulled that frame out, and the first position was next to the outside of the queen excluder, and then it moved over a frame position each day. And I'm going to say on the third day, it moved over across the queen excluders to the other side of the box. And then the next day was the fourth day, and that was the day they would pull that frame out. And like you said, they had it empty in there. And
I guess a person could it doesn't really matter where you put the queen excluder, because you could put one frame, the first frame, with the queen excluder, because really you want to sequester the queen in there, and then you would just know that when you move these down, your fourth frame is your grafting frame.
well, I was wondering, he had it, like you said, around the fourth or so frame in, maybe where the queen excluder was the fifth position. And I would presume that would be the center of the brood area. So he wants as much coverage around that. And then he pulled that frame out after 24 hours, put it right outside next to the queen excluders. And I think that he was making sure that it had plenty of bee coverage and feed and all that. And then he kept moving it down. Now, something else that they did down there was, and a lot of folks seen it, and it's like there's so many things that the commercial fella does that we think is taboo or whatever, where he got done grafting and they'll walk outside. All they have is a black bear shed down there. They walk out, they get done grafting, they walk outside. There's a water hydrant out there that you use for plugging up or hooking up a regular gardening hose to it. He turns that on and he washes that frame with that water, and he washes all that larvae out of there. And then he puts that frame in that timing box, but it'll be like the last frame at the end of the box. So it gives the bees time enough to polish those wax, the wax. And then they also break when they're grafting, they'll go in with their homemade grafting tool and they'll actually break one side of the cell wall when they're grafting. And I think it gives the bees time to repair all that stuff. So it was quite
I've done
interesting.
that. It just helps me reach the larva and helps me know where I've been on that frame when I look away.
Yeah, they look like wax worms are going across the frame on an angle.
It helps me
And
get
now,
back
are
to
you
where
using
it was.
what are you using to graft with, Brad?
Just
Is
a
it a
cheap little
homemade
Chinese
thing?
grafting tool.
Crafting tool? Okay. Yeah, that's what
I'll buy a pack of 10 or 20. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm using. And 1 in 5 is going to work. And it's almost like you get your favorite because they're all different and you have to learn how it works for a while.
Well, that's one thing that Kent Williams taught me is that, like you say, get that pack of 10 or 12. And then he said, take your thumbnail and bring that tongue down. And if it bends across the thumbnail real nice and gentle, like it's just right. But if it's real stiff and it just wants to kind of hit the thumb and stop, he said, that's the one that you got to take it apart and then back drag it on some real high sandpaper, let's say 800 grit or something.
Well, that's what Joel May was saying he was doing. He was
Mhm.
taking that feather out of there and sanding it down just so it bends real nice.
Mm-hmm.
He
And
just
then,
takes the whole tool right apart and then he sands that little
right.
tongue.
The better demonstration of that was there's a queen breeder in West Virginia, New River honeybees, and I can't remember the guy's name. And he actually has the equipment to really film in detail about that, and he did a really good job of that. And if anybody here would like to watch that, just go to his channel, New River Honeybees.
People,
I would like to see that.
People are throwing shade on me because I'm so quiet, but I haven't queen reared, so there's nothing good that I can interject. I'm trying to absorb, right?
But I mean,
that's good that video is out there, Charlie, because that I find that such a hard part to learn. I've tried to teach a couple of people, and I don't know how to teach them that. I just hand them the grafting tool and I say, this is what you need to accomplish, and you need to figure out how to do it, because I don't know how to teach them that.
Yeah. To me, I drove like 10 hours to Knoxville, and in 5 minutes I'm grafting, and I'm like, is this all there is to it? And I'm like, why people around my area, everything's kind of secretive, as far as grafting or whatever. And I'm like, it's not that bad. It's just the best way I can explain is you take the tongue and on your Chinese grafting tool, and you slide it down the side wall of the cell and let it go across the bottom till it bumps the other wall. Now, of course, the C of the larvae, it might be kind of wide or close like this. You come in behind the back part of the C with your tool, and it's like Kent Williams explained. He says, you're not picking up the larvae. You're picking up the jelly that happens to have a larvae on it.
Yeah, I'm
And
waiting for Lee to come in with his magnifying glass here.
That's what he's getting.
I give it a little twist too. I kind of put it in there, and then I give it a little twist around to kind of
yeah,
put the tip under, and then bring it around, and it tends to
Wow.
help me lift that little larva up out of there.
so
Y'all are
You
using
try to do that when you're lifting up as well. That kind of same motion in reverse, that same little twist as you're picking it up.
Yeah,
so if
Yeah.
if the blade is at the bottom like this, Brad, you're saying you're kind of lifting it up off the side,
no,
or
put it. I don't know how to do it with my hand. To put it down in the bottom,
yeah,
and then give it a twist, just give it a turn, so that
you're
the bottom of it just kind of twists around.
you're
and
lifting up
it
off of
helps me
one
get the
one
larva.
side of the blade, I presume, kind of breaking the suction, I guess you would call it. I'll have to try that.
Yeah, I don't
You get
really
more
like it.
jelly, I guess.
Once I'm done twisting, and then I lift it up. I just kind of
What'd you
go
say?
in there and
What'd you say, Ed?
give it a little twist.
Sort of like try to get as much of the jelly with it as possible.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're trying to scoop up the jelly, and the larvae is just sitting on top of the jelly. Now, if you have a German grafting tool, which is like a little hook, that's where you would go in there and hook the larvae itself, and not leave the jelly. You would leave the jelly. Now, see right there. There's Lee's got his magnification unit.
You definitely want to prime your cups if you're doing that, I would expect.
Yeah, do it that way. I like the Chinese grafting tool myself. Now they do prime their cups down in Georgia and all that. Now Lee had it do that again as far as the angle. Let Brad look at that and see. Are you saying put it on the flat like that and then turn it kind of twist it sideways?
Are you scooping it like that, or are you scooping it straight away?
I wish I could explain better.
Well, you would, Bob, you take that tongue and go straight down the straw wall. I always just go straight down, and the tongue will bend across the bottom of the cell, and you bump the other wall. And by that time, that jelly should be right on the tip of your tongue with the larvae on top.
Okay.
And then then I just kind of raise it up, pick it up out of there. And then I set that, well, I don't know whether you do reverse, but I set it in the bottom of my JZBZ cup. And then as I am I'm going backwards, picking the tip up. You're holding it like a ballpoint pen, and you have your plunger up here with these two fingers like this. And
Right.
you're pushing the plunger at the same time
same
as you're,
rate.
just like that, like Lee's doing
So
there.
the plunger doesn't actually move. The plunger doesn't move. It's the tongue pulls back, and you push the plunger down at the same rate. So the plunger doesn't move; it stays, and the tongue pulls back against the plunger.
Yeah, and then it just scoot, and by the time you got that tongue off the bottom,
Exactly like that.
It scoot the larvae, the jelly right off into the center of that cup.
That's
See,
right,
like-
Lee. That's exactly how I'm picking up.
Like that,
Push it in
Like
there,
that?
give it a little twist.
is
Yeah,
that
I just give it a
okay?
little twist.
No, I don't do it that way. I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
Well, you're
It's
coming.
whatever works for you.
You're coming in on
Little rotation.
a side scoop. Okay,
Sort
like
of.
that. Huh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
at JZBZ. They sell that.
Yeah, that's like a German tool.
Like a
that-
German one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the little teeny hook on the end, but you have to be. I think that the Chinese just, alleviated a lot of. That used to be somebody that was really, really good at it, and had to have perfect sight because, you can't flip the larvae over because it's got on either side, it's got openings where it breathes. And if it's laying on the one
Spiracles.
next to the jelly, that one's closed and the other one's open. But if you flip it over, it can't shut off that breathing tube quick enough, and it drowns in the larva or in the jelly and everything. So
Wow.
that's why
Right.
the grafting tool is the Chinese grafting tool. I think gives people a better chance of becoming queen rearers and
I would
You're
stuff.
going
Now,
to be using that foundation, aren't you?
what's that?
You're using foundation, right? Or
Oh
flat
yeah,
brine?
yeah. I don't use wax.
Because I
I use
imagine you have to be a lot more delicate.
Yeah,
your
well, that was one of the things that my teacher said that sometimes if that tongue is stiff, it'll punch through into the other side. A lot of times. Now, Brad, don't you? I thought you didn't you buy some breeder queens too? I think for your
No, that was
graph.
James bought breeder
No,
queens.
James. Okay.
Yeah, I just choose kind of what I think is the best coming out of winter. I heard Randy Oliver speak here at our convention a little while back, and I loved what he said. He said that his main selection criteria is that he never breeds from a dead queen. So
Yeah,
I
that's
kind of follow that. Find something that's really good coming out of winter. If she's older, if she's a 3-year-old queen, and she's doing really good, then that's my queen.
yeah. You got you're looking for genetics, not so
Yep.
much how old she is, and that's pretty much what I do. As far as I find one that has a great pattern and they're relatively calm and not too aggressive or anything. And I think that's really pretty much what Cayman Reynolds has done over the years. Is like he always says, he's got tired of buying queens from everywhere else, and they weren't all that great, and he just started working within his own yard and picking out the premium hives, and just over the years have gotten better and better hives about using the genetics.
I agree 100% that I think it's a complete fallacy and a disservice to all beekeepers, whether you're hobbyist or starting commercial or whatever, that to think that somebody else can raise superior queens to what you can raise. You can raise, like Michael Palmer says, you've got everything you need to raise the best queens that can be in your operation, and I believe
as long as they're not dead.
as long as they're
What you
not
got
dead.
there? What you got there, Lee?
That's
You
That's
got
where
there
you
the
talk about where
spiracles.
the larva breeds at the spiracles.
got the
Yep.
spiracles.
Yep.
Okay, I
And
didn't
if you
know.
flip it over while it's in the royal jelly, those that get covered up, and then they basically drown.
Yep. What are the pictures below that? Was that more magnification of those spiracles? I couldn't
That-
hardly see them.
I can't
far as
hardly
that-
tell what those are.
Yeah.
I guess that's just more magnification because the top one, let's see, looks like 500 and then 30, then
It's something.
3.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's the breathing that hole right there at 300 things or not.
Just zoomed
I don't
in
know.
variations of it, probably.
Yeah. Let's see what I was going to say there. When you're what are you doing, about 45 cells at a time, Brad? Like once
It'll
a week?
vary depending on how strong I think my starter is. And,
Mhm.
I don't have a really great system. I'm just trying to find my place in it and,
Mhm.
find a system that works reliably.
Yeah,
I'll
I
do
usually
maximum 45 at a time.
Yeah, I usually do around 2 bars, which is 30 cells. And
Yeah.
I'm figuring I'm not going to get all 30, I'm going to get, 25 to 28, something like that most of the time.
Yeah.
I know a friend of mine up in Pennsylvania there, he did quite well this past year. He would get 100%, over like 45 of them, 100% on there. It's like, man,
Wow.
and they were beautiful looking cells and all. So
I'm gonna. I think if I can manage the time between my schedule and hers, I'm gonna ask Carrie if I can go out and spend some time with her and kind of try and figure out where I'm going wrong. That Carrie is Ian's queen rearing
Queen,
guru.
yeah.
He's awesome.
Guru.
Queen rearing queen. She is awesome. She's a really great person.
So what does
you know,
Carrie,
I-
I mean, I know she gets laid off in the wintertime because there's nothing really for her to do, but does she
Yeah.
have another job that she goes to, do you know of, or does she just lays low until the
Uh,
next year?
Yeah, mostly lays low. I think she has some endeavors that she engages in. She's on her own. I don't really feel
That's fine.
that I should talk too much, but
That's
yeah,
fine.
she's got some stuff going on at home that um, she works at during the winter.
Mhm.
Hey guys, I wanted to go back to that idea of which queens you rear queens off of conversation for a minute. You talked about just picking the ones from your best apiary, and until about maybe a month and a half ago, I would totally agree with you guys. In fact, that's what I've been doing for the past couple years. But then I've started listening to Mark Miller, and he's talked about how he got a breeder queen from Corey Stevens, and it's really pushed his calendar as far as years in finding that VSH genetics in his apiary, and he's talking about how it's pushed him forward years as opposed to just constantly going year by year and picking those best genetics. So listening to him has really kind of got my wheels turning, and kind of wondering if that's something that might be a good move for me. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because literally until about a month and a half ago, I would have been like totally thumbs up, guys. That's exactly what I do. But honestly, I don't have a great documentation to know I know where my best queens are. I know where my best colonies are, but they're pretty informal assessments. I don't have hard data, and there's not solid Varroa data at all. It's more like honey production, um, gentleness, and overwintering. So for me, I wonder if making a purchase on a particular queen that I know has particular traits that I want to accelerate in my apiary might be a way that might be a really beneficial move. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Did you
I would agree 100%.
did you see the stream that Hillbilly had Mark Miller on? They got Corey Stevens on. They
You
were
bet I did.
advertising that Harbo method.
That's part of what's gotten me thinking, Spanky. It's that part of that
They
conversation.
said
Yeah.
that any of your bees could be Varroa sensitive.
Yeah, and up to this point, I've got about 40 colonies. I've made my bread and butter off of catching local swarms. That's how I've built up from almost nothing to where I am today. They've helped me build up my comb. They've helped me build up my colonies. They've helped me get my best genetics, but it's super sporadic and it's super unknown. So I almost feel like at this time in my career, it might be helpful to bring in some known genetics and try to dial in across the board where I'm at. So that's kind of, yeah.
Another
One
thing I
thing-
heard, everybody says breed from your best queen. Yeah, that does work and help. But the other thing that I've seen also, where does most of those genetics come from? From your drones.
Yeah.
So I've seen some of them take 2 to 3 hives in your yard, get your larva or your grabs or whatever from one of your best hives. Your other 2 hives that are the best, put extra drone cone in those hives.
Yeah, I'm always doing
Queens
that.
lay
In fact,
those up.
I
That
do
way
something kind of
it's more of a
similar.
chance they're going to mate with those genetics.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know if you heard Brad talk about his story frames. Brad, I use something similar. I just use a foundationless frame in my brood chamber, and
Yeah.
they'll raise a frame, a drone brood, and other stuff in there. And that keeps that drone brood out of those places I don't want it to be. And in those colonies I don't want those drones mating with my queens, I'll pull those frames out and then feed them to my chickens.
Good deal.
I've got a couple
I
green
agree
frames to
completely.
raise to drones, but I also, one of the things that impressed me this past year is when Greg Burns brought some of his Pepto Pink Queens down to Bruce's Bees. I don't know if you all watched that video or not, but Bruce had some ankle biter bees, okay, and they were hot bees. But then Greg brought a couple of his queens down to Bruce, and Bruce's videos after that, he specifically said how gentle his bees became after that, after bringing down Greg's queens.
I got one of those.
Yeah,
Pepto Pink
Bruce's
queens.
bees were ankle biters. They are man attackers.
Absolutely.
I think
They were horrible.
Ed, you and Lisa and Michelle all went over there to get honey or whatever this last year. So y'all experienced that, didn't you? And got bit quite a bit. But I think when he brought those other queens down, so I think that shows that bringing in a new set of genetics or whatever into that area, and then Bruce's video after that says, whoa, look how gentle these bees have become because I brought this other genetics and whatever into my apiary. I think that says a lot.
Yeah, it makes you ask that question. Even if the difference is temporary, did you notice a difference versus not having that new genetic material there?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple things though, right? Time of the year also can dictate whether they're mad or mean or stuff as well. I mean, I got one of those Pepto Pink Queens, only mine had been in his coat pocket for a week before I got it. So I introduced it, and she laid up well, it's a long story, right? So
she went F2 on you really quick.
Yeah, so she did, and she laid a small pattern, and then she was nowhere to be found after that, and they started raising their own queen off of her. So,
well, there's another part of this question I think that's being overlooked too, is that you'll get the new strain of genetics in your hive, but when that hive goes to swarms and you have a virgin queen from that same hive, will those genetics still carry on, or how long will they remain with that hive after they go and breed with local stock?
Yeah, it'll get diluted or whatever over time. But I'm just saying, if he had that he had all these hot bees that then became a little more gentle because of the new stock that he was bringing in.
Well, you also have to remember that new queen is generating her genetics in drones.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So if he produces a lot of drones, then the bees around his area will get that genetics, at least half of it, into those new queens out there. So hopefully his area will be diluted. I think he's probably has a little bit of what he called the bees out of killer bees or whatever, those hot bees out of Texas, probably.
The Africanized. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing you were, Charlie, with the queens that he brought in. They should be producing enough workers and drones in all the different colonies to kind of flood that area.
At least
the drone stock is coming from a further place away where the drone congregation area is, where the queen mates is hopefully further away, that you're not
inbreeding.
Inbreeding, exactly. Thank you, Charlie. The same drone stock with your queen stock or whatever there.
Yeah, and they've talked about that, where the queen can fly longer than a longer distance than a drone does from the same hive, to try to alleviate that. And then if you go back to New River honeybees, it's been 5 or 6 years ago, and that was when drones, the little helicopters, were coming out, and he got one. And he actually somehow attached one of his queens to the bottom end of that thing. And the little bits of honey, he was up there. And anyway, they flew that thing around his area, and they were trying to find the drone congregation areas with that thing. And I think he did state in that some of his queens actually got mated right there within a very short distance from his hives, from some of the drones there. So I don't.
Well, don't get me wrong. This is something I'm just delving into right now and trying to establish some drone areas that are 3/4 of a mile to a mile away from where my hives are now, and putting in some green comb, drone comb, or whatever stock or whatever, and trying to develop those drones to where they will be sexually mature, based upon what I heard all the people talking about this even this last weekend. In order to develop the drone stock for the new queen stock with my new Ricky Rourke hive that you just saw, so where I can start developing some queen stock that is tailor made to what I want it to be.
I think Ed is you're only a couple miles away from Bruce's apiary, right, Ed?
No, two of his backyard and one that's in Midland.
So your yard would be probably a prime queen mating yard, right? So
I'm imagining it probably could be, yeah.
You should be able to make mad queens over there.
I want to
agree. Hopefully not mad enough to bite you.
Now, like Paul knows, we have O'Neill's apiary probably about halfway in between me and him.
Yep.
And one of their yards through the woods, I would say 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile away from me. They usually average about 25, 30 hives in that yard.
So what were you saying, Brad?
No, Brian brought up a good point, I thought, and it really resonated with kind of how I've been trying to do things, and because I'll do as I was saying before, like how my spring progresses, and I'll do my initial assessments perhaps early April, maybe late March, but early April, and I might be able to start making some decisions on breeders at that point. And so if I see some colonies that I think are really, really rocking, especially if they've got an older queen and they're really performing well, that's what I really want. And I'll slot a drone frame into that sucker right away, and I'll put that thing right in the middle. I'll put that drone frame right in the center of that box, and so that'll sit there for probably a month to 6 weeks before I start grafting. Well, that's perfect. So now I've got all these nice drones, if she's going to lay that up, assuming, and I may choose 2 or 3 or 4 breeders. So I do have some diversity. I'm not trying to graft queens, graft larvae out of the same box that I'm producing drones from. I do rotate it around, and so that's what I try to do to, select my queens and select my drones.
Okay, so Brad, you just said if you find a queen that you find's producing well, you put a drone frame inside of that frame, that hive. But at the same time, do you also use that queen that's producing well to graft your eggs to make into your cell builders?
Yes, but I mentioned though that I'm choosing 2 or 3 or 4 breeders. So I'm rotating every time I graft. I'll graft from a new breeder. So I may have the same 4 colonies producing drones as I have the same 4 colonies producing queens, and so there's always going to be some diversity in there among those 4.
So do you see your drones from the same apiary then inbreeding with the queens that you're producing at the same time? That's what I'm asking there.
You have no idea. Who knows?
All of this stuff, and sorry, I'm maybe not understanding the question, but I will say this: all of the stuff that I hear about how far queens fly and who they'll mate with and who they won't, and DCAs and all this kind of stuff, I take everything with a grain of salt in the context of where I am, because I'm pretty isolated here. There's not a lot of beekeepers around me, so my queens are pretty well mating with my drones as far as I can tell.
Do you see that as a problem or not?
No, my bees are awesome.
Now I want to add something.
I'm just getting into this, so I don't know.
Yeah.
This is something new to me, so I'm asking.
Yeah. So did that address the question that you had? Because maybe I wasn't quite getting it.
Yeah. It did. I'm just.
It's the fact that I have multiple breeders. So yes, you're right to wonder about the fact that I'm grafting from the same hive, from the same queen that is laying the drones that are flooding my area. However, I have multiple breeder hives that I'm doing that from. So when I graft from queen number 1, I've got drones from queen number 1, but I've also got drones from queen number 2, queen number 3, queen number 4. So there's a wide variety of drones, drone genetics in the area.
Okay.
So
now,
I want to add
you're raising drones from several different boxes, as well as raising queens from several different boxes.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Now,
Brian.
imagine this situation. Imagine you wanting to move those drones around to actually give yourself some space. And I totally agree with Brad. Take those numbers in the books with a grain of salt. I feel like my colonies on one side of my yard are mating with the colonies on my other side of the yard. But you can make what I call a bachelor pad. Pull out those drone frames, make like a five frame nuke that's got most of those drone frames in there, and you can move that 5-frame nuke to wherever you want. There'll be a couple of worker bees that'll take care of those drones, but it'll basically be a queenless colony full of drones, and you can move it to wherever you want in proximity to wherever you want your queens to be breeding. Now, also remember, you've only got so much control. This is an uncontrolled system. So all you're doing is making an impact. You don't have 100% control. You don't have anywhere near that. You're just trying to create as many of the impacts as you can to stack the cards.
The only way you're going to get the 100% or say 99.9% is if you're doing AI. And then you know exactly what's coming from what, but
or you're on an island.
Everybody got the money and the equipment to do that.
Hey, we'll be able to tell this year with mine because my queens would be the ones that come back with Down syndrome. You know,
they do that on Pele Island in Lake.
Crippled leg syndrome.
Yep.
Well, this is something new to me, and I'm trying this for the first time, so I'm trying to gather as much information as I can. And
Bachelor Mike Nuke,
like you said, Brian, we're trying to control something that's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
So
Galloway actually brings up a really great point. It is absolutely a magnet for light. So imagine, like, after you create that bachelor pad, just nuking it with oxalic acid 10, 15 days later. Also, let's go back to that earlier part of that conversation where you're isolating one frame, right? Imagine you had 10 of these, one in each colony, and you isolated the queen, and then you took out one frame from each one of those colonies. That's another mite trap. You can then take out and make like a mite bomb colony and then just nuke that one colony. Think about that. It's like it's almost like a drone trapping frame, right? You can catch mites. So
because I was thinking about that. If you're doing AI,
you can do that kind of stuff. It'd be pretty
drones
cool.
In that, let them mature in the hive, then pull them out possibly for AI.
Yeah, there you go, Sourwood. That's kind of what I was thinking about, something like that.
Well, it's funny you said the 6 week time frame because I had spoken with James, and he kind of gave me the tip to take that green frame, wax it, and drop it in there. Well, it's about 6 weeks out from when people start doing splits here, so that's about perfect timing for my area. And they were getting on it too, drawing it out. But I've got it in position 4 from the end.
And then here's my tip for these frames throughout the season. As it gets to the fall, move them to your 1 in 10 position. They'll fill them with honey or nectar for winter storage, right? Big fat cells, perfect for that food storage. And then you're going to rotate them back in the spring or put new ones in.
Yeah, Brian, I see your cages really having a twofold purpose. And initially, for queen rearing, it's a whole different purpose than later that you're going to use it as a brood break purpose for mite control. Yeah.
Yep. It's you're isolating the queen for different reasons.
Agree with or comment, Eddie. Brian, you talked earlier about, upping your game with the breeder queen. Absolutely agree with that. When I say, choose your best queen and start breeding, start grafting off of that, I say that so that I can bring people into this that somehow think that there's some magic that's beyond them. You don't need that. All you need to do is master that little grafting tool, get some cups, get a grafting bar, make a builder. You're in business, right? Then you can start up in your game every year, choosing your breeder queens, choosing your genetics, choosing the things that you want in your hives. You want to up your game even more, go and buy that breeder queen. you're getting a queen from Corey. That's awesome. I wish I had some. So
Yeah.
all of that stuff is just next level. But
That's all great
I
advice, Brad. And even backing it up to before that, like people who are afraid to graft, I encourage them to make splits. There's lots of ways you can rear queens without even a grafting tool. So I absolutely agree. Yeah.
my first queens were swarm cells, and then you can do walkaways. A lot of people do walkaways. You can do OTS. There's so many different ways. And you can take this to whatever level you want, and you don't have to take it. If you're a hobbyist, you got 2 hives and you're always buying queens from the store, stop that nonsense. Make your own queens, because you're not buying anything that's any better than what you can make. And guess
That's
what?
right.
You can requeen every colony you have every year, and it'll cost you this
That's
much
what I want to try.
to
I'm
do
wondering if
that.
it'll come back.
And it'll be a ton of fun to do too.
And I'm looking forward to exploring a whole bunch of
Nothing
those
more
new
fun.
different avenues, Brad, that you're talking about, and saying, hey, you can do this, you can do that, you can do that. Well, I'm looking at trying to do all of those and see what's going to work for me best.
Check out OTS. You might like it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
what Brad was
I
talking
always
about, he had a video on trapping the Varroa, so I just dropped a link to that video in there.
Thanks.
okay.
Cool.
But that's what I encourage everybody that has got any type of interest in grafting. I says, don't be scared about it. Just jump in there and do the best you can.
Oh, I'm going to try.
And if you do, let's say you graft 20 or 30, well, let's say 20 cells, and you only get 5. Well, there's 5 queens
You got 5.
that you didn't have, and like Brad says, they're 0 when it comes to cost. And that's
What's a grafting cup cost you guys? Cost me 15 cents.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can buy them by what
If
is
you're
it?
buying
There's
easy
100
cut
of them, or
Yeah,
100 of them in a
I think
bag.
100 in that.
I get them 100.
If it doesn't, it doesn't. Hey, try again next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it cost me a bit. I burned through 100 cups before I got a take last summer. So it wasn't
Really?
going so good.
Man.
But
Yeah.
If you're trying
I mean, you ain't
to
gonna know it
hive,
all at once. Just jump in. Nobody knows how to ride a bike when they start. You got to practice and get used to it.
You nailed it. You nailed it. It just kind of drives me nuts because I see the same thing year after year after year after year. In August, all of the hobbyists come out of the woodwork needing a queen for some reason. Well, where's the queens you raised?
They're in my yard, so I sell it to them for $40 a piece.
well, you're buying yours and upping the price there, Bob.
Well, hey.
Hey, he's just smart, like Ian said.
He's doing the beaconomics over there. Buy them for 25, some for 40, and you're good to go, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, the profit margin's not there, so queen rearing is in play now.
And I'll give you a spoiler alert here. So anybody that's going to watch the video tomorrow morning, a little spoiler alert, and this ties into this queen rearing, my passion about getting people to just do it. Last Tuesday night, I know you had a chat, and I couldn't come because second Tuesday of the month is our bee club meeting, and regional bee club meeting, not the provincial one that we talked about earlier.
That's mine
And
too. Yeah.
we had our AGM, and the group elected me president of the Bee Association.
Congrats. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So
congrats, or sorry about that.
Phil.
I don't know which is the best way to go.
I think both are appropriate. So that's my number one message to this group: is if you're not raising queens, you need to be. So that's going to be, my number one kind of push for this group, is to get everybody on board and stop making it complicated. Stop making it you have to do this and you have to do that. No. What you have to do is you have to try, and because you can. You if you've got bees, you have what you need. And so that's my message to this
Step in
organization.
education this year is to learn how to start grafting and raising my own queens this year. That's my next step in education and being a beekeeper. Now that I'm
That's great to hear.
So, Brad, are you going to try to put on a grafting class within your little club?
I absolutely will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be
And I
opening
think
my
that's-
apiary.
I think that's the key to most grafting issues. One, and then the other thing that I find in my club that I'm the president is there's only a small group of people that really want to up their game by learning how to graft. There's a lot of other folks that are older and they're just not interested in it. I don't know why, but you
mean they're set in their ways?
Well, they're not set in their ways. There'll be a person there that they'll have, let's say, all I want is 4 hives, and they only want to maintain 4 hives. And I said, well, if you got 4 hives, you should have 4 nukes. So you got insurance policy, and they just don't want to do that, So it's
then they're buying bees from me in the spring.
That's right. They're buying bees me from buying my nukes.
I mean, that's what you want to do. That's fine. I sell bees and I'll sell you bees, but I hate to see people because, like I said, every year August comes along. I even have people in September. They come by here in September. Oh, do you have a queen? It doesn't matter if I have a queen at all because it's too late.
Too late.
Forget it.
Forget it. It's just like the hives, the hives behind me there. I had queen issues this year, and I grafted and put some queens in, and then there was some fall issues where I seen 2 of them. I think it were queenless. Like you say, it's too late to raise a queen, so you can't see it in that picture. There's like 20 some nukes up through there. All I did was pull a nuke and paper it in and with hopefully they're good for the springtime. I had my queens ready to go. I got that insurance policy out. And that's what most people can't seem to understand.
And that's the gist of
between somebody that wants to go from
battery. Sorry.
Go ahead. Which one? Go ahead, Brad. What did you say?
No, sorry. I was just commenting, Charlie, that was the gist of Ian's Nuke battery presentation.
Right.
That's an insurance policy, and there's no reason we can't all do that. I mean, he does it. He's 15 to 1700 hives, but who cares? You got 1 hive, you can still do it.
Or Michael Palmer's, he says has this what is it, brood factory or whatever on the side or whatever that you have. There's a difference between somebody like me who's going from, I've bought 1 nuke and I'm going from 1 and I split it to 2 and I split it to 4 and now I split it to 6 and I'm going to 8, as opposed to somebody like, I guess, Brad, who wants to put 100 new queens next year and,
yes and no.
Resources.
I said something to this effect the other day to somebody. They said something and I said, no, I really only manage 1 hive. I just do it 150 times.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's a way of looking at it. Yes.
Exactly. Because if you start managing each one individually, you'll drive yourself nuts. I do get into that and I hate myself for it when that happens.
But Paul, I mean, how many hives you got right now?
6.
You got 6, you say?
Yeah. And I'm planning on going to probably 8 or 12 next year, somewhere around that line.
All right. Well, I mean, if you get, let's say you got a dozen hives, the rule of thumb is to have, I'll say, at least 6 nukes for backup. But then I have another friend of mine in the area. He says 1 for 1. So, it kind of depends on what, that's what
Doesn't it depend on your goals though? Right?
Yeah.
What are your goals in beekeeping? That really depends. If you just want
Well,
2 hives in your backyard, buy a nuke from us when your colony dies. But if you're someone like us who maybe has a business model kind of frame of mind, I'm like you, Charlie. I want every single production colony to have a rock star queen in it when my flow is hitting, because I want honey to be made. One of my first mistakes as a queen rearer was my very first year I started making queens. I was so excited about it. I started selling them. That was my first mistake. I needed them in my apiary. I sold them $40 at a time, and they could have been making me hundreds and hundreds of dollars in honey production in my apiary. So I learned that one the hard way my first year, and I said to myself, I am the most important queen customer here. I'm getting the queens first, and then other people. But that's my business model, right? I sell honey. I need to make money on it. I don't need $40 at a time, right?
Well,
I need those rock star colonies.
And see, that goes back to what I was saying about my business model this year with buying the queen cells at $5 a piece instead of relying on my queen rearing initial right out of the gate, skill, because I don't want my business to suffer. And then if I prove effective at raising queens, then if I have surplus, that's what I sell off, right? The surplus queens that I don't need.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't want to be. I don't want to sell 20 tons of honey. Okay, but at the same time, if I can keep my 10 hives for my size that I want to maintain, that works for me. And if I want to sell another 10 queens to help me maintain my business, that works for me. Do I want to have 40 hives? No. I want to keep my 10 hives, sell my 10 queens, sell my 4 nukes, sell my 500 and 600 pounds of honey or whatever a year, and that works for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And
that's fine.
to me, it goes beyond business models. Like if you're commercial, I'm commercial, and obviously Ryan's trying to make money, and that's perfect. My encouragement to people to start making queens really is based on winter, because and queen loss in the summer too, because that happens. But mostly winter, you're going to winter bees, and you've got X number of percentage loss on average. Manitoba, the average loss is 25%. Last year it was 55%. It was crazy.
Why was that so high
for hobbyists? Oh, that's a long conversation.
All right, we'll do that next
on
week.
A second though.
We'll do that next week.
So for hobbyists, a guy who wants to take 2 hives, you got 5 or something, and that's what you want to be at. Yes, absolutely. Still make the nukes. If you can make, half to 2/3 of your number of hives in nukes, do that, because then you've got that battery in the spring, and not only for every one of your colonies that dies, now you can replace that with a colony that you already have that cost you this much, right?
That's right.
It costs you a little bit of equipment, right? But equipment goes year after year. You only have to buy it once. So not only is it zero cost to replace that hive that died, but now you have a good winter and you have extra nukes, and now you've got money in your pocket because you sell it to somebody else who didn't make any nukes.
Yeah.
And
I
you've
think,
got that.
I think Ian's talk on battery hives and the battery maintaining or whatever at the Hive Life conference this year was excellent.
That's exactly the model I'm talking. So it doesn't have to be 2,000 hives. It can be 2 hives. Do the same thing.
You can have 10 and bring your two or 3 back in, replenish the ones that you lose. If not, if you don't lose them, sell them, work that kind of all into what you want to do, no matter if it's 10 hives that you have as your model or 10,000 hives that you have as your model. You're maintaining this battery to put back into there.
And I would agree with the comment. If you need 1-to-1 to survive, then you're probably got a few things you could up your game on your beekeeping. However, if you can make 1-to-1, why not make them? Because guess what? In the spring, you'll have what you need to replace your losses, and then you'll have money in your pocket by selling the excess. So
I mean, that's
I say
really
make all
what
the
I
nukes
do.
that you can.
That's what I do. I sell honey. I sell nukes. When I started, Michael Palmer was the guy that was predominant out there in the YouTube land, talking about raising nukes and bringing back an old practice new again.
Or having your brood factory, or having your brood factory to put into your other hives. Yeah, that's what Michael Palmer talks about.
And he was promoting self-sustainability through nukes. And that's why I started into nukes. And I find nukes to be fun. They're light. They're easy to play with and move them around
nukes.
and whatever. And, I try, I've got around 30 some hives if you count the nukes. And if I do mating boxes in the middle of the summertime, I'm up around 50, maybe 60 little hives, if you call them all. I built it up now where I can sell my nukes. I can sell the honey. Now I'm making queens. Now last year I didn't really sell a lot of queens. The year before that I did, and cells and mated queens. And at the end of the game, the bees paid for all their expenses and actually, made up a small profit, which in turn, that's where, I'm buying that 25-gallon bottling tank, and or I'm gonna buy that extractor or or an uncapping tank or whatever I need for my hobby. Instead of it being like a boat and you're throwing money down in the middle of the water, at least your hobby pays for itself and you can make a little bit of money, which in that way you can afford to go to Hive Life and take a vacation and all. You have to kind of look at it that way.
Well, that's kind of how I did it this year too, Charlie. I did the splits, but then I expanded my yard out in the summertime where I had all the mating nukes and all the 5-frame nukes going. But if one went queenless and started to dwindle, I would just take that whole nuke, the whole 5-frame nuke, and pop it in that 10-frame with the existing bees, and voila, repaired. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing about the person who's got a small, let's say 4 hives, and I say have 4 nukes. You have options when you have those 4 nukes. You've got choices. You've got queens.
Exactly.
You've got brood frames that you can transfer over here to a honey hive that's lacking. Obviously, you need to be looking at that hive after the honey flows over with, and maybe getting yourself a new queen, whether if you're grafting or buying. But it's like this year. I had a couple of them hives that are right behind me there that went queenless right in the middle of the honey season. And I'm like, okay, I'm dropping my own queens in there. Or I had a hive that had a queen that was on the lacking side. And I'm like, well, I don't have any queens right now. I need to pet that girl along, get through the honey season, and then replace her. And the way I sort of like give her a crutch is to pull brood out of the other super strong hives to boost that hive, to get through that honey season. And, you still make a good crop of honey because of doing it that way. And it keeps the other hives from swarming. And it also makes money through the honey and all. So, I mean, that's the balancing act that you have. But like I say, the nukes give you options, when it comes to having problems within your hives. And you're always going to have problems. You're always going to have a queenless hive, or, a queen's going to disappear for some type of reason or whatever. So, it's
saying you were managing about 100 hives. What method are you using? You've been a little quiet tonight here.
Me or
Phil?
Huh?
Phil's on mute.
Oh, aren't you managing about 100 hives or so?
No, I've only got about 30.
Okay. What method are you using to maintain those? You've been kind of sitting over there in the dark and the quiet. I thought I'd pull you in here.
No, I was just building up from previous year, so I was just catching the swarms in that. So I just basically, as far as resources go, I just do the equalization.
Okay, so you're equalizing hives.
Just keep them there.
Yeah, I just equalize them and keep them there.
You run any nukes, Phil?
The only nukes I run are just like when I catch a swarm or do any splits, but quick as I can get them into a 10-frame box, I get them into it.
What is your primary objective going to be, Phil? You going towards honey production, or are you trying to sell nukes or queens?
Yeah, just honey.
Swarms are great ways to get a comb drawn out. Throw a swarm in a 5-frame box, then move it to a 10-frame box. It's a great way to pull them out really quick.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly what I do.
Everybody talks about it's just a nuke. I said, well, to me, I look at a nuke as a tool. You can do so much with that nuke where, especially like a new beekeeper, he gets a 3-pound package. I tell him, put it in a 5-frame nuke, because they always think about the heat. I say, well, think about condensing and manipulating those bees to where you've told them only to focus on 5 frames of foundation and feed them with thin syrup, and they will grow out that wax for you. And then I say, don't stop there. Put another 5. Once they do all that, and she's laying up in that 5 frames, and the bees are nicely packed in there, put another box on top of that, another 5 frame, another set of 5 frames of foundation. And, especially somebody who's new, they'll, keep building that wax, for more, then, if you have 10, then you gotta, you have 5 frames of wax or 10 frames of wax for a 10 frame box, or going up 2 more boxes. And then you have, enough for 2 deeps.
And
I've done that before.
It didn't seem to bother me this year to go in and rob frames of brood out of a nuke either to give to my honey colonies, right? So that's the other thing. You just always have those resources, and that was the benefit. Even, like this year, I'm only in the 20s in colonies now, because even though I had 60, right, as the winter came, I started combining them back. And so now I still have a excess of equipment. So when I go into the spring, I'm reusing that equipment again. So it's just kind of like an expand and then a contract thing. And it's allowing me to keep really right where I need to be, colony wise.
Okay, well, I want to, Brad, I see you and Russell talking in there. If you don't, what's going on with you? If you don't mind sharing, or if not, tell us no.
I don't mind at all. I am going to have to check out here, but yeah, I don't mind filling in at all. And this has to do with a little bit to do with grafting. So let me back up and tell you the whole story. I think it's kind of a cool thing that happened, or interesting anyway. 2021, I started grafting, and I've always been very nearsighted, and I wear contact lenses. So what I was doing to graft is I would take out my contact lenses, or even just my right contact lens, and then I could get the comb very, very close, and I could see the larvae and pick them up with the little Chinese grafting tool. I likened it. I always said it was kind of like picking up a hot dog with an egg flipper at that point. It was pretty easy because it was so close and clear. So anyway, I did that for the summer, and then I had my annual eye exam in the fall, and I noticed it was kind of weird. And the optometrist said, the power in your right eye has changed dramatically, and it's declined. It's gotten way worse. And I said, okay, that's kind of weird. And so I told him what I was doing, and he said, you kind of messed up your eye doing that. So anyway, fast forward to eye exam 2022, and so he checks things out, and he says, that eye's getting way worse yet. And he said, you got a bit of a cataract starting up in there. And so he said, he put my name in, and long story short, I was booked for cataract surgery on the 21st of December, and I had that done. And I can now see 20/20 uncorrected in my right eye. It's a fantastic thing. And so I've been kind of sequestered for about 3 weeks now. I haven't been able to work or really do anything physical. And, it wasn't so bad over Christmas because you want to take it easy anyway. But so that's what Russell was kind of asking, because I've kind of mentioned that on my channel, that I haven't been doing woodworking videos because I can't. So I'm now just able to kind of start that up probably next week and do some woodworking in the shop.
Okay, so things are looking good.
It's doing good. Yeah, it's doing good. It's such an amazing thing they can do today, changing that lens in your eye, making you see 20/20 when I've never seen 20/20 in my life.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Brad.
Understand.
Yeah. Mine are getting worse too.
Yeah. Well, I know Brad said he's going to check out. We've been going for 2 hours and 34 minutes. We're about
only a few more hours will be at 8 hours.
8 hours.
I thought
Only another
24-hour marathon.
No, I don't. I got to get up and go to work myself, tomorrow morning, but for a half a day at least.
Enjoyed talking to you guys. Thanks for
But it's been a great night, and I enjoyed it.
Great
Brad,
chat, Brad.
I really appreciate you stopping in. and it's been I enjoyed all your insights at your level and stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I
Very
want to
much.
hear. To kind of help
I'm on
us
a
out.
journey
Kind
like
of,
the rest of you. I'm not at a level. I'm on a journey like the rest of you.
yeah. Well, we're
I
all trying
appreciate your
to.
input.
We're all trying to kind of, or at least I feel like we all try to uplift ourselves to the different levels of beekeeping, and stuff like, and get all kinds of different ideas, and we all have different ways of doing things, and that might help somebody else out on how to figure out to do something for them at their area, because we're all from well, like Brian there is from over in Colorado, which is way out west, and I'm on the East Coast, and then there's the other rest of the folks here in the deep South area and stuff in the Carolinas. So it kind of helps us all out. And but
on the journey, and y'all are there help me, because some of you are a little further along than me, and some of you are behind me. If I can help you, I'll help you. If you can help me, thank you very much.
right.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.
That's right. And this I'm going to keep this chat. Try to do it every week on Friday nights at 8:00. As far as I can see, it's going to work out fine for us, and hopefully everybody will come back and have a good. As like listed in one of the bee chats that it's local here as an intermediate to advanced talk with beekeepers around the USA and Canada. I'm glad Brad came in for the Canada side. I was hoping to see James, but
Represent.
I guess
James is in
he's
the air.
flying or going back home or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
and
he's flying
everything.
today.
Pacific time, right?
I don't know. That's he's
What, James?
yeah.
Mountain time.
He's in Mountain Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No,
know
Brad. Brad, where are you in Edmonton, or are you in British Columbia?
Oh, neither. I'm Central Time. I'm north of Winnipeg. I'm in Manitoba. I'm right in the center of Canada.
Okay.
See, we got Mark down here.
9:30 for you
Thank
right
you,
now.
Firewood. Come on back. Tell your friends, everybody in the chat tonight. Put the word out. I mean, I will be doing this on a regular basis on Friday nights at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time. And
don't leave on my account, but I'm going to duck out. I appreciate you guys.
All right. Well, thank you much,
thanks
Brad.
For having me.
Thanks, Brad.
Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so Mark Miller's coming on here late, like Frank Galloway Lights here. When we're
Hey,
fixing
there's
to cut
Mark.
off, he's coming on.
Where have you been at, Mark?
I had to get in on the Charlie chat.
And the Charlie
I know,
chat.
but you should have been here an hour ago.
Well, I've been listening.
Hey,
Well,
he needs to change his YouTube channel to Charlie Chatlin.
Yeah, there you go.
He's like me and Frank, come on at the last minute most of the time, right? Right, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes it interesting.
Yeah, y'all had some interesting stuff on here tonight.
Well, that's
It was a good chat.
It was a good chat, and we talked about a lot of good subjects, and that's what I'm looking for.
That's what
Yeah,
we're all looking for.
I want that intermediate beekeeping level chat. And for all of us guys that, are striving to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
And that was like, to be honest with you, I mean, tonight at 7:00 Eastern Standard Time, there is a chat that I belong to, this club that has it, but it's mostly beginners. And I was thinking about having it on Saturday nights, and then I'm like, no, I don't want to step on the toes of this other chat. And I asked around a couple of those members in that club that are more advanced, and they said go for it on Saturday, because we're not really, they're talking about something way less than what we're talking about. They'd be totally lost. So I'm glad we did it on Friday night. It works for me, and I'm sure it seems to work for everybody here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing?
Quite yet intermediate, Charlie? Can we still come?
You are intermediate as far as I'm concerned.
If you want a ribbon at the honey show, you're intermediate.
Absolutely.
Okay. I did win a ribbon at the honey show. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Absolutely.
I'm proud of that, by the way. My wife stood in
Absolutely.
line for an hour in order to put the honey into that contest. so we can win that red ribbon. Thank you very much.
Well,
So
you
in other
know,
words, the wife won.
you know, it's like I
She
put that
won.
video up about her, and she explained all those different things. And I mean, I've entered in a local state contest, I don't know, several years ago, and I found out the hard way because I didn't read the instructions. You know, where you know, I figured it was about the taste of honey. Well, it's
Nope.
not. It's all about presentation and whether the glass is perfect and whether the clarity and this and that.
Yeah.
And it's like I did it one time, and that was the first, and that was the last time. And then I had to fight the fact that the judges couldn't do math and add up the points. So I,
They can
yeah,
subtract. They just
truthfully,
can't
the
add.
guy that won third place got, I don't know, let's say $10 for a prize. When I
You're
got
probably
done with
right.
him, he was actually totaled at last. And I moved up to where I got a $2 prize. You know, it wasn't worth the $2. I didn't even get a ribbon out of it. And I said, all right, I'm done. That's just it's a waste for me. It's just not something that I like to do.
But
If I can go out there and raise a prize, to me is if I got 30 cells and I do 100% after grafting 30, that's a prize for
what do
me.
you think? You could have Sawmill Charlie's blue ribbon honey at that point. You could just add the blue ribbon right to your bottle, right to the jar.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
No.
asked her if they tasted or not.
They do in the
Yeah.
black label, I think, right?
Yeah,
No, they
the
actually-
black jar,
They-
yeah.
They
Yeah,
just
they
tasted.
did in
She
the
said
other
they
two,
just
though.
tasted.
They did the other because she
It's a-
explained. I asked her about that, or she
It
actually
is a
came out
taste.
before I asked, and they
Watch
said they do
Sawmill
taste it.
Charlie's exclusive video.
Yeah, exclusive. That's the only one I could put together really fast because it fits the model that a kind of a video that I usually put which is a single subject. And I do have, there's going to be 2 more videos about the Hive Lab conference. And actually a lot of, like, Brian's going to be on one,
Sweet.
and yeah, you know, I got all that in there, and
He didn't
Phil.
interview me.
I know, you know, I got Phil, and I
didn't get
got-
any mead, Bob.
Yeah.
I got Paul on there.
So we need a mead competition next year.
There you go.
And
He's got me, but not after I won the Amber Honey contest.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if they could hold that mead competition out in the parking lot, or if the place would get mad.
Hey, then we could have like the presentation section. Then we could have the brown bag section. The
Okay.
Then we got to have the best toast.
Out in front of the conference center, I saw the smoking area with all the people out there smoking. Okay.
I was
And
there.
then I guess we had the mead drinking area.
I
Yeah,
was
that was
there
in
as
the
well.
parking lot. That was in the parking lot next to the blue car.
Some parking lot spaces over from the smoking area.
But hey,
That's
Earl
amazing.
has to be there to make the toast.
Yeah, I saw Earl making the toast. I did.
yeah,
I had to
what was
beat
the
out.
gal that who's that person that he toasted about? Do you know? Is that a makeup person or some
It's
character
just
from way back?
just the old saying. It's just the
Okay.
thing he had. Ain't nobody.
The silver gorilla.
I had to try to keep it PG though, so I bleeped the word out.
Yeah, choose your vice, and you this is your drunk congregation area, your smoking congregation area, and your mead congregation area over here. Here we go.
That's it. That's how we did it. Yeah, Bob Binney does sell double screen boards. I bought 3 of them at the show. They were $30 a piece. So
I was going to try that
this.
this past summer when grafting, trying to do that queen right cell finisher thing, but it wound around to where I found a double, 10 frames of Nuke, and she was queenless, but she had, bees from top to bottom. So I just shook the bees out of the top box and shoved them all down in the bottom box and out the front door, and it worked out great for me. I said, well, we'll try it next year then.
Galloway said he's making double screen bottoms, so he can use them as a bottom or as a double screen.
Yeah, as long as they're all the way screen, right? The whole way.
So,
Well, I think they should work. The ones that I got, I think, are flat on one side, like a migratory cover.
Yeah, you can do that. You can use them as a bottom board. I wouldn't use them all the time as a bottom board, but you can as a temporary. One of my favorite ways to use it is if you go to a colony and you find that it's swarmed, you can just put a double screen dividing board between the two boxes with one entrance one way, one the other way, queen cells above and below, and you've got basically 2 chances of a queen coming back. So you go back to a colony, there's a whole bunch of cells, double screen dividing board, and then come back 3 weeks later, maybe you have 2 colonies, maybe you just have 1. And then sometimes I'll even put a honey super above the bottom box, below the bottom the dividing board, because a lot of the forages will go back to that original one and they might not have anything to do, so they might just put honey in that medium while they're raising those queens. So that's my lemonade.
I tell you what, man, you get more little nuggets just listening to a random chat like this, right? About different things we do, even if
Charlie
it's just
needs to take and do like the stream team nuggets, bites, whatever they want to call them, and actually do the videos.
Really, with those guys, they actually have one speaker and they kind of focus in on just that one person.
Well, we could make nuggets out of all those little interviews we did at Hive Life.
Well, that's what I've been working on. I put the Bob Benning one up today, the Mr. Ed.
That's funny. I didn't see hashtag Bob Walker or hashtag my thing on there.
I hadn't got them finished yet. I'm still working on a couple more.
The points, the information.
And I learned a lot from Brad just about queen rearing. So this is what it's all about: is us getting on here and discussing and kind of hashing things back and forth and deciding about what the next step we want to take.
Well, we're going to have a stream in the next few weeks of it's going to be James, Brad, and Ian.
Well, you always have a stream.
Oh, I mean, it'll be on a Tuesday night, right? So,
but he's got a topic. He's got a plan for one this time, Spanky. He's actually planning one out.
There's a plan? You're supposed to plan these things?
He'll be on tomorrow too, by the way, for about 5 hours, I think.
Hey, hold on. It's still early tonight. He may be on after this tonight.
I almost went on yesterday when I saw that the Hillbillies didn't come on. So I almost
came on.
I almost came on. That's true.
I was sitting there waiting, going, "Come on, Bob! Come on, Bob! Get online."
I've got stuff I got to talk about with this co-op thing with the guys that have opted in to try to get in the co-op on try to make. I don't want to make all the decisions. It's a co-op. Everybody should be making decisions on what they want to do, right? So, just trying to work that out.
Well, us no lifers. We're all sitting here with nothing to do, just waiting for Bob to show up online and we're jump on.
I know.
Well, he got a life that night.
Well, no, what was it last night? I was sitting here. I was on the phone. Oh, I was actually trying to get Amazon set up for selling.
Like I said, he had a life.
Yeah, it wasn't much of one, but it was something going on yesterday, and so I'm just trying to work out different pricing. And I think right now with what the orders that people have sent in that they are curious on a price on, that we pretty much could fill up one pallet right now of stuff. So then we have to figure out, they got to give us a quote on what the pallet shipping from California out is, and figuring that out. So
once you come over the mountain, the shipping gets high.
Hey, you shaved. No white beard anymore.
Well, it's like Ricky was talking about at the conference, that his horizontal hives, he can ship them from North Carolina up to the Rocky Mountains for sometimes $100-$200, depending where it's going. But he said if he goes to California and he goes over the Rockies, you look at about $500 shipping then.
Well, the good thing with where Peerco is, they're actually near San Diego, so I think that actually puts them south of the Rockies. So maybe it's not that bad. I don't know. But I was surprised. After getting those couple boxes from Canada there in about 4 days, from the time I ordered them to the time they arrived at my door. Now I'm starting to look more at the Canadian suppliers because we're able to take advantage of the exchange rate. So
So Frank jumped on. It must be about time to get off, huh?
What?
Oh, he disappeared.
Oh, there he goes.
He was froze up. I think he was froze too.
Oh, okay.
Bring his name up and he takes off.
Well,
Huh?
I'll tell you what you do there, Bob. Look at one of those smokeless smokers and see what's the American price for that thing.
Oh, they're pretty high.
I know they're like 280 something Canadian dollars or something like that. I don't know what that is.
So like 37 cent US.
Hey, pine needles are cheap.
I was about to say pine needles are free.
Pine needles are cheap, baby.
And there went a bunch of stuff.
So, Bob, I have a question for you about the pallet. When I tried to order something from Better Bee, they wanted to know if I had a loading dock, or even if I had access to a loading dock, like a business that I knew.
Yeah.
Because the vehicle that it's going to come on is dependent upon that.
Yeah.
Is that a conversation you've had with Peerco?
Yeah. What they'll do, they'll have a regular truck that can back up to a dock so a forklift can get in. If not, they send a truck out that has a lift gate on it.
But the one with the lift gate, they usually charge you more. So what you can do is you can have them hold it at their little warehouse, their little distribution place, right? And then I just drive my pickup truck and they'll grab their forklift and drop it in the back of my truck.
Okay.
If you want to deliver it to a residential address that you do not have a thing, then you've got to have liftgate service that they'll have to bring in another truck with it. But if you can go pick it up to their central distributor where they're at a distribution center, then you can go pick it up there and put it on your vehicle, then bring it home.
So how does that pallet get off your truck when you get home?
Bob just picks it up, of course.
Yeah. So that's what it was. I had to use my favorite Mexican buddy, Emmanuel Labor.
Man. When they delivered my 20 frame,
he's down at the Home Depot around here, I think. Yeah.
When they delivered my extractor, they brought it on a lift gate, and I don't have no forklift here, but they just dropped it on the lift gate. We drug it off of that right next to my mailbox, and then I got a rope tied around the pallet and drug it through the yard all the way up to the house, unbolted it, and I bear hugged it and packed it into my little honey house.
Well, to give you an example of the exchange rate difference, so if you go to Dancing Bee's website, right, they have their unassembled deep commercial grade boxes are $20.95 Canadian, which are about $15 and some change, maybe $16 in the US, right? When you do the exchange rate. You can't buy that box here in the States. Man Lake has them for like $26 and some change US. So even with the shipping, if it costs $20 a box, if you buy a pallet of 100 of them, then you're still saving money. Even if it costs $5 per box to ship, you're still making money. So that's kind of the, or not making money, you're saving money. So that's kind of the way I've been doing with that. I mean, I don't know. So it's just a matter of getting people. It helps when people order stuff, like if they're ordering foundation and they know they're going to use it eventually, order a box of foundation. Don't order 20 sheets of foundation, right? Just order the whole
one
box.
sheet of foundation.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not much of a savings there, you know. So
It'll probably actually cost you more to buy one sheet than it would 20 sheets. You're going to get a discount.
The co-op's problem.
Well, no.
Hey, if you go to Hive Live, you get one sheet free.
Yeah, you get one frame.
I got 4 frames.
They had some walking out there with 10 because at the end of the conference, they had pallets left, bundled up 10 to a bundle. They said grab them, so people just started grabbing them. I said, heck, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known that, because I drove my car directly into the vendor hall to load all my computer stuff up.
They would have gone on my horizontal hive very nicely.
Yeah, I was 50 foot from the pallet. I could have loaded up right there.
I had a discussion today with Dennis Lintz, that's always in the chat. You know, he's an hour north of me, and he wanted some foundation, and he said he had just bought some foundation, and I think he paid or some plastic frames, but he paid about, I want to say it was $2 and some change for foundation. Well, medium foundation, I can get I think 100 sheets of foundation are about $95 before shipping, right? $95. So that's for medium. So that's less than $1 a sheet. So that's a great price. And if you bought, you know, so you got to kind of calculate when you're figuring it out. You got to calculate, well, if I went to my local store and bought it, and they're going to charge me $2 for that, and then you buy the frame and $2 for that, now you've paid $4. And then you're looking at, well, if I buy the plastic frame that I can get for $1.18 instead of,
I get what you're saying.
Instead of, you know, $2 or something. So that money that you're spending, you're actually able to buy more with the same amount of money. And, you know, that's, you know, thought process. That's why I really need to have either a conference call or something with the people that have put in what they want to be able to just, you know, see what they want, you know, how we want to do it.
You need a
I'm still trying to get over Emmanuel Labor. It's still cracking. And his brother Juan, right?
If you're interested in the cup, you got to email Bob.
Yeah.
Frank, you're going to fall off.
It's about to slide into the floor.
How does that work?
I'm going to turn your camera around the other way.
How do you flip it? I don't know. When on my phone, when I turn it, I got to hit a little button that flips the whole layout.
Oh God!
Where are you, DC? You need to get on here. You've been commenting over there all this time, and you've never been on. Come on, DC, jump on.
Well, Mr. Make It Worse makes it better. I guess that's just preference and what you're trying to do, you know. Yeah, so for me, I bought a lot of boxes at one time. And, you know, every box if you're running 10 frame equipment, if you buy 50 boxes, well, you need 500 frames to fill them out, right? So it just became a cost savings. I was already buying Acorn plastic foundation and putting them in wooden frames. And then I was like, well, I can get the plastic frame for $2 and something. This was last year. I can get it for $2 and something that already has the Acorn foundation pressed in it. So that's why I went that way. It was just a cost savings for me.
Well, I'll tell you who had the best deal this year. Oh crap! Who was it? Was it Hollow? Where did I buy my bottles from? Was it
Hidden Hollows, honey.
Hidden Hollows. They had painted boxes with frames, with Premier double wax foundation in them already for like $47.
Right.
I was like going, oh my goodness, if I had a U-Haul, I would have brought those home all day long.
You were just one rental away.
I was.
Get that one-way trailer to pull behind the pilot.
Well, I needed
no problem. I just don't like how they try to draw wax on top of my frames on the plastic.
Well, that I find that only happens the first year. Once you scrape that off,
yeah.
And I've seen it on wooden frames too, where they'll draw that comb on top, the bridge between the super and the in the brood box as well.
Yeah, they'll definitely do it on wood too. Just to me, just not quite as bad.
I think it's box inaccuracies.
Probably, but I wasted a bunch of money this year on boxes that are shit. I mean, there's no other way to put it with the boxes I bought.
From where?
Yeah, where'd you get them from, Bob?
Where'd they come from, Bob?
A place that cannot be named.
Yeah, from the creators of Swarm Commander, I'll say that. And then
That eco wood.
But
So
hey,
wait, did
but
they make
in
the
all
boxes, or
fairness, they got those boxes from
Go,
South Florida
Jason.
Bee Supply, so they didn't make those
Yeah,
boxes,
that's
right?
what-
They
yeah.
they did assemble them. So,
They assembled them.
Bob.
They just didn't use a glue to assemble them.
mhm.
Well, that takes
And
longer.
Bob, what do you need 2 cases of mite checks for?
I've got a website that sells products. You know, I mean, and the thing is, I've heard over and over again they were hard to find and people can't find them. The Ceracell kind.
Well, you know,
And they're the ones that don't leak.
Yeah, these are the ones that don't leak. And hey, I'll just show it to you if you guys want me to while we're talking about it. So these are made by Ceracell. They've got the little, Tupperware seal on them. And they do have a rubber gasket around the inside of the lid.
Did you buy that, or are you carrying that now, Bob?
Well, I bought
No.
12 of them, so I'm getting ready to put them on the website. But they also come with a scooper cup. And
Does it have a measure for 300 and 200?
well, I would
no.
assume that's the scooper cup.
And then the basket has the slots are different, which, from what I gather, people have been enjoying that being different than the other ones. So, yeah. So I bought some of these to put on the site. Did I get a good price? I mean, I guess. Will it matter that much on the website? Yeah, probably not, because of the amount I had to pay for them. So, and Brian's got it. Yep.
Oh, that's a customer lost.
So here's my problem, right? For my next club meeting, I'm the vice president of my club, and the president of my club went to ABF. So for February, we're going to kind of report out. We're going to talk about the 2 different conferences. So one of the things I'm not going to do this, but imagine this. I got this really cool new Varroa thing. It doesn't spill water out or anything at all. And then I have this free one, Varroa check of the old model that I got from Bohemia Bees that I'm going to give away for free and to one of my club members. So I think I'm not going to share this with my club members when I give that other old one away, because that's what I was trying to replace.
Well, just share it and give them my website. You can get these here.
But here's a really cool one I got, and here's the
Speaking
version of the not as
he
good
appears
one.
in the chat.
Well, I bought half of what they had in stock. He said, I think I got 24. I said, give me 12 of them. So
nice. I think I paid 25 for mine. And honestly, I don't remember who I bought it from. It was the first table I saw that had it. I was like, that's what I want, because I knew I was buying one there. And I bought it Thursday night, I think.
Hey, Jason, I got a workaround for that, buddy. Give me a call. I'll hook you up with a guy.
You know a guy that knows a guy?
Talk to my guy.
We got black market Ceracell products coming into the country.
Come on, DC. Come online. I see you down there chatting.
Good luck.
Can't. He got.
Hey, Bob,
we're full.
Bob, did the Beehive Barn call you yet?
Who?
The Beehive Barn. Did she call you yet?
No, is she supposed to?
Yeah, she's got a website that crashed on her. I thought you guys could get her set back up and going.
Maybe. Possibly. We'll see what we can do. What does it do? Did she say?
It's just her lifeblood, because that's where she has all her stuff for sale, and it crashed. I went to check something the other day, and I noticed it wasn't up, and I called her, and she said, I was looking for you, and so
what I found out is when it usually crashes, it has something to do with the if she's getting her URL from GoDaddy, like GoDaddy has stopped forwarding that, so she might have to check with GoDaddy to see if she needs to pay them to renew that that DNS or that URL.
Gotcha.
Her .com name or whatever.
And I threw her back there for the Swarm Commander. Swarm.
Swarm
Lord that you're
Wrestler?
selling. Yes.
So it's yeah, we can definitely get her hooked up. And the exchange rate, guys, I'm telling you, just take a look and see. Not everything will be cheaper, but I ordered from Dancing Bee in Manitoba. And it didn't go through customs. Or I guess it went through customs, but it was 4 days UPS. So it wasn't bad as far as the shipping.
So you're saying I can pay you in Canadian dollars, Bob? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. If you got 3.5 million Canadian to perpetuate that joke.
It's worth about $1.50 in American. Is that what you're saying?
$1.50 US, right?
Okay.
But yeah, they do have some stuff that is reasonably priced when you do the conversion. To give you an example, I paid that. I got my Apis Biologics bill today from what I picked up at the show. And it was $1,700 in Canadian, and I think it was $1,350 US. So it was like $400 difference, between the $2. So
it's a steal.
Oh yeah, what a bargain! Matter of fact, oh god, this is heavy. I didn't even unpack it from what I put it in the show, just in case I had to send it back to him.
What, $1,700 fits in that box? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, you know the size of the packs, Paul. Yeah,
I've got a couple of them that I haven't even opened yet. That's it.
It is loaded. This is heavy though. If I would have had to have this shipped, it would have tacked on even more. So, and then time right through customs.
I'm going to use it to feed in the spring.
And well, this is spring. You don't know that yet, Paul?
Not yet.
I'm 6 weeks.
Yet.
By the State Beekeeping Association, March 1st is when, or right around March is when we should do splits and stuff here.
Yeah.
First couple weeks, but that's only 6 weeks out. So
well, here it's supposed to be 31 degrees tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
so.
Here too.
Yeah, it's 36 here right now.
And then we'll be split in the middle of February here.
Not quite spring here, but yeah, we're going to be early this year. And I would say, into February, Lee, you're right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be early this year because, we've already got red maple coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we do too. We got the little buds
really?
on the tree. Yeah.
Man, that's early.
So I want to
get ready for a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
It's going to be hit it and go. Here we go.
Yeah, like
Hey,
Paul
Bob,
said,
are
we're
we
going to be
supposed to-
down to
Hot
like 30,
1 week,
around
cold the next.
31 tonight. Monday, the low is going to be 65 that night.
But we're supposed to go to 80 like Thursday next week, right, Lee? Something like that.
Up and down.
Bob, are we supposed to be using that pollen supplement to build up our hives that are a little small right now, getting ready for spring? Is that what we're supposed to do?
Well, whenever you normally put on pollen sub where you're at, that's when I would put it on. If you don't have any pollen coming in right now, it wouldn't hurt them any. It's just what time? When do you start? I
don't wake up until April.
Yeah, Frank, you're up in Ohio or somewhere, aren't you?
New Jersey, Southern, but I don't know.
Jersey.
April is when we start doing stuff, I think.
Yeah, you still got a ways.
So right now, what I did this week, at least on one colony, is I actually waxed up that green frame, and it just happened that Brad said 6 weeks before they start doing their splits. That's when he starts putting them in. And when I put it in this week, that's when it started correlating to the time that I put mine in was about 6 weeks from when we start doing that. So it'd be interesting. They did start drawing it out, or at least there was a bunch of bees on that green frame that I put in the colony this week. So we'll see how that goes this week. If it warms up, I'll actually go back in there and try to catch some video on it.
Well, they're bringing in pollen in my hives today. Today was what, 6 degrees or something like that. They're bringing in pollen right now, but there's no nectar out there. So I was lifting in to see. I checked them all today to see if they had, food, carbohydrates. But they've got protein coming in, but not carbohydrates coming in right now.
So
what color pollen was it?
Yellow. Some of it was light yellow. Some of it was whitish or whatever. But
like almond white, off white color.
Yeah, I don't. I'm no pollen aficionado there, Mark, but
I took a picture of a yellow plant out there today that I think they're bringing pollen in from. Let me pull up and see what it was.
they were bringing in some. I had some pak choi in my garden that was died from the frost that we had a couple of years ago, and I think they were bringing in some of it. The blackberries are already starting to bud on the canes right now, so I think we're probably not too far away.
Mine are still hitting the dry sub, but I'm getting some green pollen that I've noticed in the frames, a little bit of green pollen, and then my Ultra Bee that I've got out for them. But that's the other option, Frank. You could always just make you a tube feeder, and if they're able to fly, and they need it, they'll grab it. And
what you're trying to do is stimulate brooding, right? So you can get them to build the numbers, get ready.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to give them some pollen. Now, do they, like in the spring, they won't need it. They won't even touch the dry feeder. If there's natural pollen, they will forget all about that Ultra Bee. They won't even stop by it. Same thing with the open feeder, right? If you have open feed out, they won't touch the open feed if there's natural nectar that they can get. And so right now I keep a little bit of open feed out there, and I've got my pollen tube right now.
Yeah, but Frank, in Jersey right now, you're not wanting to stimulate brood, and you're wanting to just feed what you've got with those winter bees right now. You don't want them to start brooding up there right now because you still got
I'm
some cold
almost
weather
thinking,
ahead
can
of
you
you.
put a heater on there and try and make your season longer?
Well, that's what Vino Farms does, right? And that's what the bug farmer does.
highly insulate it and put a heater on there and artificially lengthen your season so you don't, because I have small numbers and I'm trying to get my numbers back.
What do you mean by lengthen your season?
Well, James, what he says is he's up in Canada, right? And he uses the bug farmer's heater system in his colonies. And what he does is he uses that purely for them to start drawing drone cells out, to start laying some drones. So when it's time for him, that he's got a plethora of drones in the area to be able to mate with. But you got to time that to your geographic location, whatever that is.
Because we have a guy, some Ollie's or something like that, has some type of heating pad that you keep for your body, you keep you warm in the winter. I'm thinking, well, if that keeps you around 95, which is your body temperature, if you get that little pad right next to a frame somewhere, you can kind of keep that bubble warm and artificially.
Well, I know they do sell them at some bee supply companies that are specifically designed to sit on the bottom board. And I think Spanky and I were talking about that the other day.
You can look on Amazon and they've got pads listed for beehives.
The problem is that if you go to Walmart and buy a heating pad, they're thermostat driven, right? So they're going to turn on and turn off. So I don't know if it would keep it consistent. But
I did put it in the hive, it's going to sweat so bad it'll be dead in 3 days.
That's too much work for me. I'm not putting electric blankets on my hives. Just if they make it, they make it. If they don't, hey,
it's just going to cause it to sweat.
Well, for us to have only a couple of hives and 1 or 2 dead is the difference between having or not having. I'm wondering if it's worth it for us.
Well, I think if it's thermostat driven, then obviously the bees will only, if they need it, then it'll cut on. But if they don't need it, then
cut off.
Because if you're like some of you guys that have 100 hives, like a couple lost is no big deal.
Wait a minute. First of all, I'll preface that with the only person with 100 hives in this screen is Mark. Everybody else is in the 20s, 30s, maybe.
Somewhere over there.
Yeah, he's over there, right?
He's
Yeah.
Well, it's got to go the opposite direction.
Yeah, you always think opposite.
That way.
Now, Paul, I pulled up that yellow.
It ain't about numbers.
Outside today, we pulling in. That's Oriental hawk's beard.
Yeah. I just want to.
I want to kind of emphasize some of the things Jason's mentioning in the chat over there. The impact of heat on a colony could have some pretty unintended consequences, even if the short-term benefits are there. When you talk about extending the season, I think Spanky, that was a really good question. What season are you trying to extend, and for what purposes? If you're heating a hive in the winter, you're not extending a season. You're almost starting the spring earlier. So I would be really careful about that, Frank. You know, there is a healthfulness in that brood break that happens throughout the winter that you're messing with. You know, you watch people like Ian Stepler, they put their colonies inside in a climate controlled area and they keep it cold consistently. And that's intentional. They don't heat it up in that building. They keep them cold consistently. And that's for the benefit of the bees throughout that season.
They're putting them into a cryo sleep, right, to keep them from consuming their resources.
Yeah, I thought it was cheaper, so you don't have to pay so much for the food. I thought that was for.
Well, and to that end, Brian, I've known some people that are in North Carolina, I think it is, that are actually building sheds and going to cool them like Ian to put them in those sheds to keep them in that homeostasis or whatever for that time, essentially hibernate them for a period of time at an artificially cold level at a lower latitude or whatever that Ian is, to put him into that to keep him over the winter.
Yeah,
so Frank, understand it's not a one-to-one. There are multiple impacts, multiple benefits, multiple consequences. It's not just a single purpose.
It's all trade-offs.
There's all trade-offs and there's multiples. Like that idea of saving food, yes, that's part of it, right? But that's part of also preventing them from starving in March. It's not just about saving money. It's about slowing them down so they don't brood up too quickly and burn through their food resources before that food is out there naturally. So if you stimulate them too quickly with heat or even with pollen, which Jason is talking about in the comments, you've got to be careful about turning on or turning off. You've got to understand and be mindful of all of the impacts of that one variable that you're putting onto that colony.
Jason, I wish we had a shutdown period here because our problem is we go between 20 degrees one day and 80 degrees the next day. And then we go down to 50 degrees and then back to 75 degrees. And there is no shutdown period. And I think Bob probably experiences the same thing that Lee and I do down here in the South, is that you really never have a heavy duty cold winter to where they actually go into, if you will, hibernation or whatever. They could be one day feeding and one day clustering, one day feeding, one day clustering. And before you know it, they've burnt through all their winter stores and we're in trouble down here.
Well, that's why I still have liquid out.
I had a few out flying today. It was probably low 50s today, but it was a little breezy, so it felt cool. But we still had bees out flying, trying to forage, but bringing in a little bit of yellow pollen.
Yep.
Now, Frank, did you have something you want to show?
Yeah, I was just going to show you. What I did is I put a stopper on the bottom, the front of this
screen board.
Normally, you have your entrance right there, and I put the stopper on the bottom. That way, you can put this on top of a deep box, and then you can have this either as a screen bottom or you can have it as a double bottom. And then you can use them like you can have them backwards and flip them so the entrance can be front to back or whatever you want to use them for. But it's one box, one board.
Nice, make a cloak board out of it too.
Yeah, just try and make it useful for more than one thing.
Yeah. I use screen bottom boards like that, but then I stick that political sign or whatever underneath them to shut them off for the wintertime. Right? Yeah, for the wintertime,
I leave them all the time.
Paul, I meant to ask you, what you vaping with right now, too?
I'm sorry, say that again, Lee. I didn't hear you.
What are you doing your OA vape with right now?
Oh, I'm done. In December, essentially, I run about 4 different seasons. For December, about every week in December, I hit them with OA, and then I'm done for the year until we get back into the spring.
What vaporizer are you using?
I've got Larabi's plug-in one. I can't afford the $500 nice little battery-powered DeWalt one. I've got the plug-in one.
I didn't know what you were using. I was about to say, I'm 10 minutes down the road from you.
You gonna borrow it?
I can loan it.
I may come pick it up sometime.
Well, the
Long
thing
behind
is, the batteries
section.
cost almost as much if you get the bigger battery.
Yeah.
And he's only going to charge you $20 a day to borrow it.
Oh,
There
yeah.
you go. He's like
Plus a $500 deposit.
Yeah, I was about to say, you got to remember that deposit now.
AAA
thing
rental,
is,
right? Yeah, here we go.
it'd probably be worth it for $20 a day. The amount of time I would save with that would probably be worth it. I would have pulled the trigger on that, except for that battery cost. You know, that was almost like $1,000 with the battery pack. I
Well,
don't have that battery set up yet, so
I've got a plug on the back of my house, and it services everything
the
that
reason
I've got,
it
so we're
cost so
good.
much for me, though, I bought the 9 amp hour battery and the fast charger. So, yeah, that was a little more pricey.
yeah.
I got a question for you, Charlie.
Yeah.
You talk about how your club likes to help support the members. So
Renting a little Robbie's.
you
Help
do
support the
stuff
what
like,
now?
the members.
Yeah,
Like
you're right.
you
Well,
help with
that seems to be our.
reducing costs on like treatments and stuff.
Yep.
Have you thought about getting one of those low Robbies for the group with the batteries?
Well, the situation there is you got liability
Yep.
amongst, you know.
Who you renting that out to, Spanky?
Well,
You got
you just
liability
have
there, and then most of our club members have some type of vaporizer. And to be quite honest with you, Rob actually is a member of our club. Robbie's is only a 30-minute drive from my house.
Wow.
I know the local bee club here, they've got like an extractor and stuff.
Yeah, we have that. We have now.
Yeah.
See, we won't even buy. I want him to buy a motorized extract. Nope. You know, I was overpowered or overvoted on that. And we have 2 hand crank extractors, 2 uncapping tanks, hot knives.
Hey, Charlie, you're the president, ain't you?
Yeah, but I still have a board of directors.
I was
that
about
we
to say,
have
you
to-
can't just sign that executive order.
No,
I'm sorry, I had to.
no, can't do
to
that.
answer the little question on screen real quick, Kylie, I did find a honey straw machine there.
Yeah, I
They had
seen it
one,
too.
and that thing was $1,600.
Should have asked if you could loan it.
I was like, not for $1,600. I'm not.
I saw that. You got to sell a lot of honey straws for $1,600. Yeah.
Some people were talking about they sell their honey straws for $4 a piece.
Oh,
I'm like, where?
They're
They
like
said,
two
"We
for
get
$1.
$4 a piece all day long." I'm like,
have you
not
seen
where I
the
live,
wax?
Frank.
The wax straws, Lee? Have you seen them?
So
that's environmentally friendly.
I hadn't seen them.
I just want to take a
I've seen
moment.
the paper ones.
I seen Hayden Maxwell, who's new,
Yeah, that's
and
what we're
welcome him on the channel,
Hey,
and then also the fact to let him know that he has been searching lives, that there is a Tuesday night live either on Walker Bee Ranch or Kodiak Farms, which will be it's leader Lee's, or let's see, Bob's going to have the next one, right, Bob?
Think so, yep.
Bob will be
in
on
the
this coming
center
Tuesday.
square.
So we got, let's see, Walker Bee Ranch. We're going to show that. There
We
it
got
is.
the whole Brady Bunch square here tonight, I'll tell you.
Yeah, there's it's Walker Bee Ranch, Hayden, and check him out. Sub to him. Also, Kodiak Farms, as they switch back from each show. I don't know whether I can get both of them in there at the same time. I guess not.
Nah, it's
There's
only one at a
Kodiak.
time.
Kodiak Farms there on Tuesday nights, 8:00 Eastern Standard Time.
That'd be 7 Central for Hayden because he's in Texas.
Is he in Texas? 7 Central and all that. So, and then I will have and then for me, I'm going to be on Friday nights at Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, Sawmill Charlie's Bee Farm. I also have a YouTube channel, and sub to me and get notifications on all of 3 different channels.
Yeah, it sounds like he's found the right channel. I don't know if you saw his next comment, but he's talking about going down to singles, so the single brood management, at least in the winter.
Me and Charlie both do singles somewhere there. I can point.
Where's that at? Let me see.
I don't know if I can reach over there and slap.
Is it really a single if you're using 2 mediums?
Well,
I mean,
Technically, it would be like a single
The
deep.
$64,000 question.
I'm just poking fun at Charlie because he says he uses all mediums, but he's
I use all medium. To be honestly, I overwinter in 3 of them, 3 mediums, which is a full size, considered a full size hive. But
I'm thinking about doing some of that this year to help draw out some of my medium frames.
Well, my big thing is when I put them away for the winter, I put my top hive feeders on, and that top medium is a honey super. And they are down in the 2 bottom. I push them all down in the bottom. And it's the same way with James from Canada. He actually does a deep and a medium, but the medium is a honey super. He makes sure that those hives have enough food to get through his bee barn. So it's kind of what you're used to and all, you know.
And how do you get them all down there? You just dump them?
Huh? I just shake them down.
How do you get them all down in the bottom? You just dump them and cram them in there?
Yeah, smoke them down. And just like in the springtime, I get out there at the end of March before the flow, and you know they're going to be in the top 2 boxes. So I pull that bottom box out of the mix, and then I put a queen excluder on, and I put a honey super on. I mean, the honey's not going to be coming in real strong, but it's you're here where we're at, Frank. The maples will start blooming around mid-March. That nectar will be stored and used. You'll never get any honey out of it. And then I go in there and I equalize them hives. I don't have swarms. This year I'm going to do something different called a demery. We've talked about that on here. And I'm going to be doing a rolling demery where I'm moving frames of brood from the bottom up to a top brood chamber. And I'm going to see how that works for me. And all.
In 5 frame nukes, right, Charlie?
No, this will be in 10 frame. 10 frame.
Oh, wow.
And I do 5 frame nukes. Yeah.
Bob talked about.
No, I thought you were going to do a 5 frame demery.
That was Bob.
No, I'll do 10 frame. 10, you can do a 5 frame. And all.
Does anybody here run 8 frame equipment?
I've got some.
Yeah. I'm actually primarily 8 frame, and I still have a little 10 frame equipment left. So I'll use them to overwinter in a single deep, and then I'll double them up, and then I'll split them back to a single, and that usually takes me to my honey flow, and then I'll turn it right back into a single deep brood chamber. So that's how I run my 10 frames. And then my 8 frames, I run double deeps with a frame feeder and a top. So it's only 15 frames altogether. So
hey, Brian, what do you think? What do you think about hibernating your colony through the when you have a draft, when there's no food in the middle of the summer, and putting them into like the freezer and kind of like keeping them in a cooler temperature to get them through those spells? A dwarf, or what do they call it?
Dearth.
I would maybe just supplement their food instead of doing that.
Yeah, so how long's the dearth?
Yeah, it would depend. And there's so many other things I would be thinking about doing. Like if my dearth typically happens right after I pull my honey supers off, right? My flow stops, and then there's my dearth. So that's actually my treating time. So
I would start thinking about winter right then, ain't it, Brian?
That's right, but I wouldn't be putting them in a winter situation immediately. I'd want to start thinking about my treatment time, and then I'm going to start thinking about, do I need to supplement their food to get ready for fall? I wouldn't want to shut them down quite right then.
What about people that have like another late fall thing, and they just want to keep them quiet for a little period of time, middle of summer, and then fall they have that season that they
feed them, Frank. You're in my
area. I would do. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Isn't any guarantee anyways.
July and August. Now this year was the first year I did not have to feed because of the lanternfly coming into our area. I don't know whether you got that or not, Frank, in your area.
I have 1 or 2.
It might, we had a few last year. Now we had a lot this year. But usually what I found is 10 frame hive. I would give them, let's say, 2 gallons of sugar water. And that's good enough to get through July and August. And then you're going to have a fall. Well, I won't count on a fall flow around here. I will count on goldenrod with pollen coming in, maybe a little bit of nectar. And then by that time, you're talking, let's say after Labor Day, I'm going to start feeding heavy for winter. So you have to kind of give them, if you don't have a flow in July and August and there's a dearth, now there's some guys won't do anything. She'll shut down. She won't lay any eggs, and
That sounds like in Russians.
yeah. Well, anyway, they'll reduce in size and population. Or the other side is to go ahead and feed a little bit of sugar water and get them over that hump until something else starts to kick in.
I mean, we could do like the California Canadian beekeeper and just put them in a, the end of the year is going to be a dud. Put them in a hibernation shed that's cooled all, fall, all winter. And then before spring starts, artificially, and, boost them so they're ready to go out as soon as that pollen's ready to go, and kind of make just like a greenhouse would be. You control everything.
Yeah, but now if you listen to Ian and them guys with those winter sheds, they're getting real stressed there around February, March, because them bees are like, they know they can, like Ian says, he can smell spring in the air, and they're wanting to get out and get going. And I think you would be trying to put them in January, July, or August. It's just too hot. You got to learn to feed them.
Gentlemen, my phone's about to die. I'm fixing to head out of here.
It's 11:30, everyone, and we've been on live for 3.5 hours, which is about an hour and a half more than what I planned on. But I really didn't mind it. I enjoyed it.
Or 3 hours short of his record.
I was about to say, we got another 3 hours to go, Charlie.
Yes, we do.
I got to go. I'm down to 6% battery life.
All right, brother.
Have a good one, Mark.
Y'all have a good one.
Yeah, Mark.
Good night, Mark.
See ya.
Good night, y'all.
All right, Mark. Thank you.
My earbuds were dying. I was looking for earphones.
That's why you need headphones.
Hey, what happened to eBay? I mean, eBay used to be almost exclusively people selling stuff, right? Now, I mean, like used equipment, used things, and now it's all basically like Amazon, where everything's new, and trying to find something
used, forget it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the other day my kids were on eBay all day long, but they still didn't sell, so I'm going to lower the price tomorrow.
Well, best of luck to you.
I was thinking you had goats or something.
Well, I mean, I was just looking for somebody selling used bee boxes.
Thought they were going to try and sell used bees.
I was about to say that would depend where you're at too. If you can buy used,
you, Brian.
Without
night, guys.
Later,
bro. Good night. So
stay warm tonight.
Jason at Bohemian said that used equipment is sold on the Book of Faces.
Yeah,
Facebook, Craigslist. Yeah, I probably find most of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it just depends where you're at, because some states don't allow you to sell used equipment unless there's bees in it.
Yeah,
I
Tennessee,
you cannot sell used equipment.
You actually have to. They will have liaison inspectors in your area, and they have to come out, look at your boxes if they're empty, and then approve that yes, you can sell these boxes.
I think they says like Alabama, like some of the pollinators that are coming through can't go through there because they will not allow comb from outside into the state.
Well, if they're doing or transporting like that, they do. I mean, I know up here, if you're bringing in like that, you have to be inspected, have an inspection sheet from the home inspector or wherever that's coming from. And everything. If I want to sell bees to somebody in Pennsylvania, like a Nuke, I have to have my bee inspector inspect those hives, take that paperwork, and then I think she sends that to the bee inspector in Pennsylvania. I think that's how it works.
They would just catch me riding dirty. That's what they'd catch me. I'd have a truckload
Bees
of.
have to be in that hive before they're considered to be a hive with bees in it.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like to me that Tennessee had a lot of American foul brood problems. And I know the state of Maryland, I think bee inspection and you must have your bees registered, started in, I'll say like the 1920s or something like that. And because of that, see you, Steve. We might have, we'll have a report every year, and some years we might not have any American foul brood found, and some years we might have 1 or 2 cases, but it's pretty small amount. So, I wanted to say one thing. I did get my a partial report back from my inspector. Came to me, wanted me to participate in the APIS Natural Honey Bee Survey, which is with BIP, Bee Informed Partnership. So they did the visuals and all that kind of stuff, and there was basically zero frown, like chalk brood, American foul brood, and all that stuff. What was really nice is they took samples of my bees. They took live samples, dead samples, and alcohol wash. They actually shook out larvae out of uncapped brood, or capped brood actually. And so they did, far as the total number of bees in the alcohol sample was 1,097 bees. Now this is across 8 hives they took samples from, and they found 2 Varroa mites. So my Varroa mite population is 0.2, which is, I find, really nice, and zero nosema load as far as spores in the bees. So that was really nice to see. Now they are going to do 2 more tests. One's going to be a viral test and bacteria test and molecular nosema test, and another one for pesticides. I don't know what AMS pesticide results, whatever that means. I don't know whether that's in the wax or just what, but that'll come later in several months. So that was some good news. At least it kind of tells me that my Varroa mite treatment program that I've devised, it seems to be working.
Right.
So anyway,
well,
all right. What? Go ahead.
One more thing real quick. DC, I see on OfferUp that they've got nukes in Portland for $150 starting February 29th to March 15th. So I don't know your weather up there. That seems early for your area, but I don't know. So that's on OfferUp.
DC needs nukes to have a roof on them, though.
Right.
$150 is pretty good. I was at my bee meeting on Tuesday night, and local people around here are selling them for about $175.
Yeah, it's gone up to 200 here, and if you go to Texas Bee Supply, they're like 265.
Mine are 200
now.
Maryland area is $200 a nuke, 5-frame nuke.
Well, I might have to go to Portland because I could make $50 a nuke just transporting them all the way across the United States.
Yeah.
And Charlie, that AMS, that's ammonium sulfate.
Okay.
So you know.
What's that amount to? Is that a different type of test or something?
From what I'm saying is talking about the weed control systems. I guess doing spraying and it getting ammonium sulfate in it.
Mm-hmm.
Ammonium sulfate sounds more like a not a pesticide, but more like a what am I
saying? AMS plays a valuable role in preventing glyphosate in the binding to hard water ions that reduce its effectiveness. Aspects, weed control systems.
Yeah, glycophosphate is the Roundup stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I did get one more thing that I just saw in my email Tritone sent me his version of a timing box that I wanted to share.
Who did?
So the
Put it up there.
basically it's a 2-frame mating nuke into a migratory cover with the queen excluder underneath it, right? So you move your queen and the frame up top, and then the bees will migrate through.
Oh, hole cut in the lid of the bottom box, yeah.
So
What's that for?
Queen timing, right? So her eggs for mating,
Okay.
her larva.
So there is a queen excluder between the two boxes.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So I didn't catch it at first. That was just the photo he sent me right there.
Well, that would work. Put the one frame with the queen up top to lay, and put queen excluder down in the bottom box.
Yep.
Nurse bees can come up.
So
I can make that.
Yeah, that's not too bad right there. Just a cool idea, right? Something a little bit different. So
something different.
Leave it to Bob. Put it on the website.
Somebody's thinking. That's what we're looking for. People thinking, right?
Yep.
Yep.
That's
basically the same idea as that. What Brian with Flower Street and I also bought the same thing, that tin box or twin queen excluder thing for the one hive. Well, guys, it's 20 minutes to 12. We got to get off of here. I got to go to bed.
You want to go to bed, Chuck? Come on.
Yeah, well, I'm not tired, but I got to get up the next morning.
What kind of channel are you running here, buddy? You bail out early.
Yeah, no, we can't do no 6 hours tonight.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm a little tired tonight myself.
Guess I got to wait till Tuesday for the all-night beekeepers.
You
huh?
signed up on this.
Well, hey, we got the weekend. The weekends are wide open. They're the wild west of beekeeping.
8 hours straight.
Bob's going to be on tomorrow. See y'all tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Bob said it's only 11 o'clock there, or 12 o'clock. I mean,
Yeah,
you got till 6 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, my
Yeah,
buddy,
19 minutes.
my buddy did make the request that he wants me to help him move this weekend. So we'll see how that works out.
But it's been a good chat, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been good. To be quite honest with you, I've learned how to do a few more things here tonight, which has made it smoother.
I'm raising queens this year, baby. I got a little information tonight myself.
Yeah, I mean, just do it. That's all I can say. Just do it. It's fun. And I look at it as a game. I look at it this way. If you can do 20 cells and you get 80 or 90%, you won. And if you're less than that, the bees won. But if you get 5 out of the 20, you're 5 cells ahead.
Yeah.
And then the next time you do it again, and you might get 8 or 10.
For somebody my size, that's okay. If you want to raise 100, well, 5 out of that is not a good number. But for me,
no, but
I'm okay with it.
Go get all I'm doing is a 5-frame nuke box.
Yeah, and just do it. You should trademark that phrase there, Chuck.
Just do it.
Yeah, Nike.
Oh,
I know somebody says it's a game of drones, right, Bob?
A game of
that's
drones.
fun. The game of drones.
Y'all have a great weekend. We'll talk to y'all later.
All right, we'll see y'all later.
Yeah, good night, guys.
Good night.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right, see ya. Let me end the chat here.